Oh.
We're good. I think looks like we're on Facebook Live and YouTube. Hello, everyone. Sorry,
Cool.
we're a little late today. I was rerouted, your choice, and did my best to get this thing all put together so that we could do a show tonight, this afternoon. Oh, Steph. Hey, got my celebration ale with my nice little sweater that Steph gifted me with.
Nice
Yes.
one.
And I know it's late over there, Nick. Thanks for hanging in there with us.
That's cool. No problem.
Okay. Okay, let me see. I'm not sure if everything's connected right yet. I apologize
we'll
for
find
the
out.
chewing. Yeah.
That's all right. I'm still chewing as well. Dinner time. Mm-hmm.
Very quiet.
That's what she said.
Better.
Okay, and over here.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door.
I'm Radio Roger, and you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
Okay. And you're on, Steph. Take over.
Excellent. Sorry, I've got work people bothering me at the moment.
Oh, those darn work people.
Mm-hmm. Going to have to say something to them.
Oh, I need to plug in my other laptop here before it runs out of battery.
It's like, go away, work people. I'm not at work anymore.
I gotta get
unfortunately, it's slightly more complicated than that.
What am I doing back here?
We don't want to know.
Finding your charger. Or putting some trousers on, one or the other.
No, you're right. The charger. That's exactly what I was doing.
I'm glad you remember because I had no idea because I really was not paying attention.
I'm losing my mind.
Too late, mate. You've lost it.
I've lost my mind. Okay, what else? Something else I was going to do.
Get a beer?
Oh, I have one.
Good.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think I fixed my picture background thing. Needed an updated app. Ooh la la.
That's about as interesting as I could pretend.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Wow. Fascinating. Tell us more.
That was really interesting, Jeff. Yep. We're close. Very close. All right. Is that okay? No, I can see the edge.
Unacceptable.
That's not Saturn anyway. Okay. Did I go the right way? Yeah. Okay. Oh, hello, MBF. Okay. I'll put my chips away. Although I'm still very hungry. Let's clapboard thing.
Oh. See, and I was even in the middle of trying to write some stuff on this, and then I got sidetracked.
Are you still dealing with the work thing?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to give them a call in a little bit here, but let's get started with stuff, and then I've delayed for a moment.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay, I'm recording. How about you all?
Nope.
Y'all.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Yep. Gosh, Nick always has his updated, and mine is always blank.
Mine sometimes just has old information.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. There we go.
All done.
And go. Excuse me. There's that. And the intro page. And what the heck?
I tried to change the title of the plane tale on the intro page, but it wouldn't change for me.
Oh. Okay. Roger. I'm not sure what Roger said because I wasn't really paying attention to what he was saying. I was just trying to put it all in the music bed.
That's right.
We'll see what he said.
He'll make a brave attempt, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, let's see. Guys ready?
Sure.
Yep.
Liz, give me a thumbs up. All right. Thumbs up from Liz. So we are ready to go, I think.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door.
Airline Pilot Guy episode 399. Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door, with your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 1A at APG headquarters in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show is recorded on the 6th of November, 2019.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Get your ride and he's flying by with the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, a Southwest Airlines flight attendant accuses 2 pilots of putting a hidden camera in an airplane lavatory, and a Dutch Air Force runway is phoned by mistake. More news, your feedback, and in today's plane tales, God help all of us. So get all settled in, tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger. Flight 399 is ready for pushback.
Hello and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast, kind of like an aviation talk show that we do each week. We talk about aviation news between the shows and we answer your feedback. And of course, we feature the old pilots' plane tales as well. And here to help me with all that is from her lakeside home in the Carolinas, a doctor, skydiver, marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and multi-commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot, Dr. Steph.
I feel like we need to pare back some of those things. It's just too much.
It's a lot of stuff. I mean, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Maybe we could change it. Put some new things in, spice it up.
Okay.
A little.
Sure. You're more than welcome to.
All right.
So that's Steph.
Good to see y'all. Glad to be here for episode 399.
399.
399.
And also here for 399 is from his studio in the English countryside, A professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, former captain for an international airline based in London. It is Captain Nick.
Hello there, Jeff. Hi there, Steph. Has it been another week already? Good Lord, time flies when you're retired.
Rub it in. All right. Well, good to see the both of you. And Dana is not going to be able to join us at all today. He's actually out there earning a living, flying airplanes. And so we're going to miss him, but I hope that he'll be able to join us on the next show. We'll see. And I forgot to mention at the beginning there, I am a captain for a major legacy air carrier based in Atlanta, Georgia. And I like to call the airline Acme Airlines. It's very much like, well, never mind. Yeah, don't want to get myself in trouble. So how's everybody been doing?
Good. You want us to launch into detail right off the bat?
Nope. I just wanted to kind of do a quick
in that
how
case,
y'all are.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs
All
up.
good.
Thumbs up. Okay. Well, let's move right on into this week's news.
Stand by for news.
All right, we'll start off with the first item in our news folder, which is item A. Pilots on a Southwest Airlines jet secretly watched live video from a camera, or did they, in the aircraft's lavatory, according to a cabin flight attendant who is suing the American company. This is from probably not an American company. Oh, yes, it's from thetimes.co.uk. Renee Steinecker, who is based in Arizona, claims she saw images from the lavatory on Captain Terry Graham's iPad when she entered the cockpit on a flight between Pittsburgh and Phoenix in 2017. He had gone to relieve himself, a physiological break, we'd like to call it, and she was there to join the co-pilot, Ryan Russell, to comply with security rules that require 2 crew members in the cockpit at all times. According to Ms. Steinecker's suit, she saw video of the captain in the lavatory on the iPad, which was attached to his side window. So his electronic flight bag was displaying video, apparently or supposedly from a camera that was secretly placed in the lavatory. The co-pilot had a, quote, panicked look on his face and said there was a camera in the lavatory because of a, quote, new top secret security measure installed in all of Southwest's Boeing 737-800 planes. That's what her lawsuit claims. They led her to believe that she and others had been filmed while they were using the lavatory, according to her lawyer. The pilots and the airline have denied the allegations. We can confirm from our investigation that there was never a camera in the lavatory. The incident was an inappropriate attempt at humor, which the company did not condone, according to an official Southwest statement. And no date has yet been set for a hearing. So it looks like it was a little effort of a gag, a joke, a prank gone bad.
Yeah, not a very good prank to begin with. They weren't thinking that.
Hang on a minute. I
thought it was actually pretty clever.
That was pretty clever.
I thought it was pretty clever, actually.
We had 3 cameras that, and we regularly only used the one that monitored the door, but we could look on another 2 cameras that were positioned overhead the corners of the galley to make sure there was no one hiding in any of the corners that we couldn't see with the first camera. And when you flashed out, it was very hard to orientate yourself exactly what the picture was because you're just looking straight down on people. And we used to kid the cabin crew that actually they were in the toilets, and we used to flash it up just for a second or so, but it's not polite to look, so we turned it straight off again. But we got a lot of quizzical looks from the cabin crew sometimes going, well, really? You're allowed to look at the toilets?
Well, you know what? You're just lucky nobody sued you.
You're lucky. Yeah, exactly. You're
not looking in the toilets. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sue you for not looking in the toilets.
So I wonder why, when she found out that the whole thing was a gag or prank or whatever, and there really wasn't a photo, a camera in the lavatory, I wonder why she continued to decide to go ahead and pursue a lawsuit.
I don't think she believes them.
Yeah, I don't think she believes it's a prank or a gag or a preg, as I tried to say.
A preg. Yeah, that's a good one.
New word.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I thought that was kind
of.
I
think she's still taking it seriously.
She saw something on the iPad that was on the EFB or whatever it was that's attached to the screen, which led her to believe there was a camera there.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it just seems like nicely, frivolous story that probably has very little founding in fact.
Yeah.
Our producer says it's for emotional damages, the lawsuit.
There you go. Pranking people can cause damages.
Okay. Well, I better not say anything else lest I get in trouble. So apparently the co-pilot was a pretty good actor. He looked like he was concerned that, it was probably like, let's do this. This is a great idea. On paper.
I will say this, though.
Yeah.
In a professional setting, I tend not to joke around at all, hardly. And the reason being is because of stuff like this. You really never know how your audience, who could be someone you really don't know very well, is going to take something that you mean lighthearted and with a sense of humor. You don't know if they're going to take it the wrong way. So if you're in a professional environment, especially either if you're working with people you don't know very well, with colleagues who kind of change locations, in your case is flight attendants, co-pilots, things like that, who you may not work with on a regular basis, or with, members of the public who you don't know from Adam, might not be a great idea to joke around too much.
I do know Adam.
Okay, well, then you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say that is a golden rule.
Yeah.
Which should not be broken. But some pilots, like me, have very poor sense of humor. We think we're great. We think we're very funny, but we're not.
Yeah. Well, speak for yourself.
I
think you're funny. That's what I mean. I think you're funny.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let's move on then, shall we? Item B. Let's see. An F-35A based in the Netherlands got a foam bath instead of a water bath. You know how they do the shooting the water cannons and the airplane goes through it? Base fighter fighters were supposed to give the plane a water salute to mark the arrival of the first Joint Strike Fighter to be based in the country. Crash trucks at the Royal Netherlands Air Force's Leeuwarden Air Base were supposed to provide a water cannon salute to mark the arrival of the country's first operational F-35A Joint Strike Fighter to be based in the country, but covered it in firefighting foam by accident instead. The base firefighters had reportedly responded to an actual emergency involving an F-16 Viper fighter jet earlier and forgot to switch back to shooting regular water for the ceremony. The F-35A arrived at the base at around 3:30 p.m. local time and landed after flying a lap around the base, according to an official press release. The jet had flown from the final assembly and checkout, VACO, never heard of that before, facility in Italy, where Leonardo had assembled it under license from the primary manufacturer, Lockheed Martin. That was something I didn't realize.
Is that Da Vinci?
I think so. It was just one guy. He's very smart,
very old,
and very old. Yes, but it makes nice paintings. That's nice.
He makes very nice masterpieces.
He's very artistic, I hear.
Okay. The Dutch Air Force already has 8 other Joint Strike Fighters, but they are all in the United States where they support test and pilot training activities. Those aircraft have made multiple visits to the Netherlands since 2016, but are not permanently based in the country. The country is buying 46 of the jets in total, including 9 more it agreed to purchase just this month. Amusingly, despite including pictures clearly showing the mix-up, the official release makes no mention of the mix-up. Yeah, we don't want to embarrass ourselves, do we? The foam is seen dripping from the plane as the pilot, Ian Knight, the commander of the 323 Test and Evaluation Squadron, exits the aircraft to greet a crowd, including various government dignitaries. The Air Base Fire Department was on standby for the water salute when they were called to an actual emergency. We already know this. Another way to state it in different words and a different order, but we're not going to read that paragraph.
Just to confuse.
Just in case you didn't understand that first paragraph where they gave the exact same information. So anyway, moving on, it's not clear what this might mean for the aircraft, which ingested some of the foam into the engine intakes and the engine itself. I don't think I'd be worried so much about that as I would with that special coating that makes that one of the components that makes that F-35 a very stealthy jet. Right, Nick?
Yeah, but if that special coating can't withstand, I don't know exactly what chemicals are in that foam, but I would hope that it could withstand most that nature can throw against it, included acid rain and all the normal stuff you can get in our polluted atmosphere nowadays. I would hope it wouldn't have done it too much damage.
Well, I have seen news articles that say that there was an airplane crash and the firefighting foam that was used to take care of the situation somehow leached into or got into the local stream or river or whatever, and they were telling people not to eat or drink from the water or eat any of the fish that were downstream from that place. And you're thinking, there must be some really toxic stuff.
Yeah, probably not good to ingest, but
yeah,
hopefully if they rinsed it off fairly quickly, they will have got away with it. But if you don't see that airplane fly for a while, we'll know.
Jeffrey saying it's not potable?
It's not potable. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, it's been a long time since I've played that. And that means I can't find it. But here we go.
Potable.
It's not.
Or potable, come to that.
What else was I going to say? It was very clever.
He said, holy crap. I'm reading a bit further on. The foam bath certainly didn't appear to dampen the spirits of those who attended the ceremony. Dutch Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Lawrence Jan Soak. Why do they have such odd names?
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Glad you read that one.
Gave a speech to the crowd in which he explained his own experience of flying the F-35 for the first time. Holy crap! For a moment, I felt like a teenager on a very cool skateboard in Florida, he said. Now, I don't know. Was he a skateboarder in his youth, I wonder? But
yeah, dude.
I'm hoping it would have felt a bit better than being on a skateboard. That's
totally. Yeah. Okay. Well, not sure what else to say about that. Yeah.
No. Could be expensive. Hopefully not.
Could be an expensive mistake. All right. Item C. This is serious news. The FAA shuts down a Florida repair firm that supplied the faulty Lion Air sensor on the Boeing 737 MAX that crashed in Indonesia. The Federal Aviation Administration shut down Extra Aerospace, that's XTRA Aerospace of Miramar, the company that supplied the faulty sensor. The regulator's revocation of Extra's aviation repair station certificate announced Friday means Extra is out of business. Late Friday, Extra issued a statement saying that we respectfully disagree with the agency's findings. It added that the revocation of its certificate is not an indication that Extra was responsible for the accident. And the news came the same day that the final investigation report into the Lion Air accident was released Friday by the National Transportation Safety Committee of Indonesia, known by its Indonesian acronym Kilo November Kilo Tango, KNKT. So I thought was interesting here, the paragraph, let's see, Extra repaired and approved for service a second-hand angle of attack sensor that was installed on the Lion Air jet to replace a faulty one. But according to the final KNKT KNKT investigation report, the replacement sensor was miscalibrated so that the angle it registered was 21 degrees too high.
21 degrees?
degrees too high. That's a lot, people.
Yeah, that seems
That's not like
quite an error.
2.1, which
No.
I would still think would be very poorly calibrated
Yes.
and problematic. 21. Wow.
So apparently there's on the calibration equipment, there's some kind of a button that you're supposed to press or adjust or do something with that, kind of adjusts the calibration to that particular model of AOA vane or whatever. And the KNKT report states that the sensor was most likely improperly calibrated because they did not have a written procedure that specified the proper position of a switch, not a button, on the test equipment that could have led to the miscalibration.
They didn't have written procedures. I mean, quality control is always written. There has to be a manual for everything, especially when you're coming to setups of test equipment and things. So my brother's a QA engineer and tells me all the time the standards that have to be met for various qualifications that put your company in a certain position that allows you to undertake this work. And if you're in an aerospace company, it'll be very high. So I just can't believe that. I just can't believe they managed to pass their inspections without written manuals on how to set up their equipment.
Yeah, that is kind of a glaring problem. The AOA vane that was installed on the MAX had come off of an older Boeing 737-900ER jet in Malaysia that was sent for repair a year earlier to Extra. And they disassembled the unit and replaced an eroded vane. And then that's the one and it was like the day before the accident. You'll remember the day before the accident, the AOA vane had issues, and had it not been for the jump seater saying, hey, turn off the stab trim switches there, and they were able to safely fly the airplane and land. That was the day that the thing had been installed, and the very next day, as we know, was the tragedy. So again, not maybe the only reason why it crashed, but was definitely one of those Swiss cheese holes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely, but not the only reason that this company should have been closed down. It had sinned more often than that, surely.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Here we go. FAA said that Extra recklessly and systematically failed to comply with safety requirements, federal safety requirements. So I think there's probably more to their management and safety procedures there than just this one particular fault.
I sense that you're right about that.
Although I don't know for sure. This doesn't go into anything else, but
yeah. Okay. On every show we got to talk a little bit about the 737 MAX, right? So there you go.
We do? It's in the contract now?
That is, yeah.
Okay.
They sent it to me. I haven't sent you a copy to HR yet.
Okay. I look forward to reading it.
Okay. Let's see. Item D. El Al, the Israeli airline, retires its last Boeing 747 in style. And I don't know if can you guys see the graphic of the what do they call those?
Yeah,
Sky
it's a nice
Doodles?
A340 they did. What a great tribute to the A340. Or perhaps
the 340 is much. The 340 is much
probably
longer.
Probably an
than
A380, I think, is what they've done.
It does kind of look more like a 380. You're right. Huh. Well, anyway, they to mark the end of the era, the pilot on the retirement flight for the 747 in Israel's national airline zigged and zagged following a route shaped like the jet itself. Call it sky art. And let's see. So I'm wondering, this is the last flight, right? Were there passengers on this? Like paying passengers?
What I was wondering too.
Like that seems like it took a while to do.
We're just gonna take this little detour over the Mediterranean here for a while, and we're gonna fly some odd turns.
Yeah,
I think probably not, but
I don't mean to query this, but it is an awfully symmetrical line diagram. I mean, it is perfect, isn't it? Absolutely perfect.
Well, it is a Boeing 747, sort of, supposedly.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, what I mean is that there's no errors whatsoever in
So
it.
this is fake news, is what you're saying.
No, I'm just saying it just looks a little too perfect to me.
So you're saying they didn't hand fly it?
Well, I'm sure they didn't hand fly it. I
Perhaps it
think
was a very
he's doubting that this was actually flown.
Actually flown. They were in cahoots with Flight Radar 24 to.
I could have produced that on a picture made of Flight Radar 24. Actually, although it does actually show some other bits and bobs in the data, doesn't it?
It does.
It's got to show it. So they must have done it. It's just I was just very impressed with how good it looked.
Yeah.
Except the tailplane. We should have had a bigger tailplane than that. I don't quite understand that.
He's still concerned about the fact that it's not very accurate.
Artistic rendering, Nick.
It's the creative artiste
license
in Nick that's
Ah,
just
yes.
being bothered
so,
by
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's too perfect.
Not accurate. It's too perfect, but not accurate enough.
Exactly.
Correct. Absolutely.
Nailed it.
So it wouldn't have made it onto the APG artwork.
No, definitely not.
It would not have been a piece of APG artwork.
And you know what else is kind of disturbing about this? They weren't going green.
No, they weren't.
They weren't not. Yeah.
Particularly one of those gas guzzlers.
Yeah. Always got to get a little ribbing in there, don't you? Let's see. Environmentalists are troubled about carbon emissions. They may be a little less exuberant about the flight. Some people, including Greta Thunberg, the Swedish teenager who sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and flew back, by the way, in an emissions-free yacht to draw attention to global warming, have
She
eschewed.
flew back in an emissions-free yacht. How did she do
No,
that?
she sailed across in an emissions-free yacht, but on the way back she flew in an airliner or a jet, probably a private jet.
If you sail in a yacht, aren't they all emissions-free?
Yeah, I guess they're
No.
just trying to. Well, probably mostly, unless they're running their motor.
Oh, you wouldn't be sailing then.
Oh,
would
but
you?
she wasn't worried specifically about this one, was she? Oh, just about 747s in general.
I don't know.
Type of
Not sure.
less
I wasn't-
efficient aircraft, I think, is what she's.
Yeah.
Yeah, not specifically this flight.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I didn't write this. This is the New York Times. You'll have to talk to them.
Okay.
So,
I shall send them a letter
yes, you should.
Okay.
We have concerns at the APG
about your accuracy.
about this article. You should really shoot for 50% like we do.
Well, there's some bloke here says the pilot of a milestone flight has traced the shape of a plane before. As a popular air travel website pointed out, in 2017, a Boeing pilot traced the outline of a 787 Dreamliner over the US. It took about 12 hours.
Yeah, that was over the entire US, though.
Yeah, it was like
Really?
a huge.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was huge.
it was like
It was part of a test flight, I think. Like
yeah, it was
testing out
covering the
certain things on
entire continent.
Mhm.
But it took 12 hours to do it. How long did this bloke take? I'm just curious.
It didn't look like that big to me, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
It looks
Is there-
like there's
there
a
a graph?
timeline there. Yep, from
Mhm.
about noon until 2, so 2 hours.
Not bad.
Hmm.
I feel like we should probably move on.
We've spent a lot of time analyzing this.
We
This
did.
is the hard-hitting aviation news that you all
It
come
is.
for.
This is serious stuff we're talking about. Okay, well, this is serious. At least it will be for the captain that allowed this to happen. According to reports coming out of Russia, an unqualified young woman was allowed to fly a passenger plane on a scheduled flight in Siberia. So it was there's some footage, a video of a young woman in her 20s. I thought she was pretty attractive, actually, flying the 44-seat Irero. Is that how would you pronounce it? IR Aero?
Irero?
Irero? Twin turboprop Antonov 24 is now being investigated by Russian prosecutors. In the video, You can hear the male pilot giving instructions to the female passenger in the cockpit during the 1 hour and 45-minute flight from Yakutsk to Batagay. That sounds didn't sound Russian at all. Okay, a spokesman for the Russian airline, when commenting on the reports, told the Siberian Times website, there are doubts that these materials have anything to do with our airline's activities in providing passenger transportation. More fake news, apparently.
Yeah.
So I watched the video, and it turns out that the young lady was the girlfriend of the captain, apparently. And so, yeah. In the video,
ex-girlfriend, because she was the one that posted the photos.
Yeah. Did she? Yeah, she may have.
I think so. They went on her
woman
Instagram.
named Anna posted photos and a video of herself flying on the plane on Instagram.
Apparently, he didn't make it clear to her that you shouldn't do that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good.
No, particularly after the previous Russian aircraft that we know where the captain led his son and daughter have a go, and they subsequently lost control and crashed and killed everybody on board.
Did not end well.
No, not for anybody
at all.
Not a great believer of that sort of thing.
Right. See second story regarding the Chinese pilot too. Okay, where is it? Oh, it's in the. This is in intercommunications or backstage communications from our producer Liz, and it's scroll down. Okay, scroll down. Look at that.
Oh.
Thank you. A pilot in China has been given a lifetime flying ban after a viral photo revealed he allowed a woman in the cockpit. And I like how they pixelated her eyes in this photo.
You can see everything else except for
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the picture, which shows the female passenger sitting in the captain's seat and making a peace sign, was widely shared on Chinese social media site Weibo over the weekend, or Weibo. Thanks to the captain. So happy, read the caption. Captain, not happy. Taken on an Air Gulin. How do you pronounce that stuff?
I don't know. Air Gulin.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good.
On the 4th of January, so it's a while back, the image's recent circulation prompted the airline to issue the pilot responsible, who has not been named, with a permanent flying suspension. Why don't they just say they fired the guy?
Well, it sounds more like that they've taken his license away.
Yeah, so he can't fly for anybody else either.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, so, it's not the first time we've talked about these kind of things on the show. People should know better than to do this kind of stuff, especially in this day and time when there's so much, potential for evidence and people sharing it, not thinking a thing about it. Yeah. Wow. Oh, well. Anything else to say about that, Steph?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. Pretty irresponsible.
I summed it up pretty irresponsibly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
don't do it, people.
Yeah, don't.
No, don't do this.
More advice, just like don't drink and slide, like our last
yes.
Oh, yeah.
show.
We talked about artwork briefly. I meant to say, if you
Yeah.
have not looked at the artwork, even if you haven't listened to the episode yet, go look at the artwork for $3.98.
Really, you do need to. And by the way, that's a good point. There are some podcast software applications, whatever apps, that actually show the art for the episode. Now, I don't think Apple's Podcasts does.
It does not.
It just shows the standard generic Airline Pilot Guy Show logo. But you should go and always go to the website and look at, if your client software doesn't do it, go to the website and check out the album art or the episode art, because Nick is a very creative person and he just outdid himself on this one. A lot of detail there. I'm still discovering. It's a safety card that is a custom safety card, I should say.
For Acme Airlines.
Yes.
Yes. It's got some interesting escape routes. That's all I can say.
a lot of escape routes.
Lots of helpful tips as well.
A lot of helpful tips. Yes. Okay. And then let's see. That's it, right? That's all you guys have in the news folder?
Yeah, that's all I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So I'm going to save the item that I have in the Evernote news folder for the next show. And that means that we can move on with catching up with each other. So, getting to know you, getting to know all about you, getting to like you, getting to hope you like me. You like that? I didn't.
I'm reserving
so-
judgment.
Yeah. So while that wonderful piano music is playing in the background and fading out, we're going to talk about what has been going on with the APG crew. And let's start with Nick.
Okay. Well, not a great deal. It's been less than a week since our last one.
I know.
So not
It has?
a huge amount of time.
Yeah,
Yes,
like
I know.
6 days, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So nothing flying wise. However, I did receive an unexpected and very pleasant gift through the mail from Mark Heffer. So my sincere thanks to Mark, who lives in St. Leonards-on-Sea, a lovely place, who sent me, I think it's probably about a 1970s book. It is actually priced in both modern currency, a decimal currency here, and the old-fashioned. So it's £1.25 or 25 shillings. Which I think is rather quaint. It's the world's greatest air mysteries. And he said, avoid the first two chapters, which are about UFOs. He obviously understands my loathing of UFO stories. But there are some interesting ones there that might, if I'm lucky, form the kernel for a plain tale. So thank you very much indeed for that, Mark. Very kind of you. Always appreciate these. I do warn people that I'm very poor at returning these. So if you have a treasured book that you want to have back, don't send it to me, because I will
Never
forget
see it again.
I will forget who sent it, won't know how to get it back to you, and I'll have forgotten anyway. But I do appreciate them when I do get something like this that I can possibly use. So.
That's okay. I have the reverse problem. A friend of mine returned a book to me via mail the other day. I had no idea that I had given it to her or sent it to her in the first place. Didn't ever remember even owning it. So,
is it possible that you didn't?
oh no, it definitely was mine.
Oh, okay.
But I had forgotten. She could have kept it anyway.
Other than that, there's nothing really, except on Friday coming up, 2 days time. There's the Phantom TDPU, which I think I mentioned. Thinly disguised something
meeting.
Meeting. Yes.
Thinly disguised important meeting.
Important meeting. In the Lord Moon pub in the Mall in London, all of Friday afternoon and evening. So I will be down there having a jar with my old Phantom mates, which I'm really looking forward to.
Interesting story about how Lord Moon got that name.
Is there? I do tell.
Has something to do with an act that some people call mooning. Right?
Oh, right, okay. No,
Probably not.
I assumed he was an astronomer, but
that could be too. Yeah,
it could be. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that and rubbing shoulders with a few old Phantom friends. So that'll be fun.
Can't wait to hear about it on the next show.
Singing non-PC songs like The Flag. So,
well, don't record any of that, okay?
Oh, really?
Or you can, and then just make sure you edit out all the politically
that'll just be
offensive
a continuous bleep
material.
then for about 5 minutes.
We look forward to hearing that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll record some songs.
Oh no, dang it! I gave him the idea.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Too late now.
Well, Steph, did you do anything interesting between the last show and right now?
It's been 6 days.
Yeah. Does it feel like 2 weeks?
Yes.
Lots of stuff, huh?
Yeah. Well, actually not that much. I mean, really, when you think about it. No, we had actually had a little trip planned, Justice and I, to Las Vegas. He was planning on staying for a bit longer than I was, but I was planning to meet him there for the weekend.
Hang on a minute. Anything that happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, so you're not allowed to tell us about
Well, I wasn't
it.
going to share all the details, but
Okay.
but no, it's there's listen. It turned out to be a very you'll see why here in a second. It's okay to share. Unfortunately, he was unable to attend. Had to cancel kind of last minute because his mother has been in poor health and felt like he needed to spend the time taking care of things related to that. And then I said, well, if you're not going to go on the trip, I probably shouldn't be going on the trip. I can help out with stuff. And he said, well, no, I mean, really, it's just stuff I need to take care of. And, we had already booked stuff and better if someone uses it and not because otherwise it would just be non-refundable stuff. And I said, well, okay. And he's like, well, just find someone to go. This is like 3 days before the trip to Vegas. Now, mind you, Vegas is, I think everyone mostly knows where Las Vegas is. I live on the other side of the country, so not a easy place to get to for most folks, especially last minute. But fortunately, I have very amazing neighbors who also do quite a bit of travel and have availability in their schedules and whatnot, and basically award points and things that they can use to travel kind of last minute without a lot of expense to them. So one of my neighbors was already planning to go to Iowa for some political related stuff over the weekend. And her husband had nothing to do. And he said, well, Vegas sounds like a fun time. Let's go to Vegas. So we had a Vegas trip with my neighbor, which was actually very fun. We basically spent most of the time checking out a lot of really good restaurants. I've consumed quite a lot of food in the past 6 days. Mostly good tapas and sushi and all kinds of stuff.
And 63-degree eggs.
63-degree eggs. I do like the 63-degree egg.
What pray is a 63-degree egg?
It's a little bit warmer than a 61-degree.
Or a bit further north?
Yeah, you could look at it that way.
It is an egg cooked at 63 degrees Celsius.
Yes.
For a long period of time. I forget exactly how long, but it kind of comes out soft, kind of like, so the yolk doesn't get cooked as firm as like if you hard boiled the egg or something, but it's not runny. It's kind of somewhere gelatinous.
Like the sous vide method.
Yeah, a little bit like
in
that.
A water bath.
Like water bath, so it stays a consistent temperature.
So when I take a bath, rare egg, is it?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
When I take a bath, I don't know if I should share this or not, but I usually just take a whole bunch of eggs with me and put them in the bath too. So that's my own version of.
And then you have sous vide 63 degree.
Yeah. Guess 63 is a little warm though.
It's a little warm for the bathtub.
Yeah, I was going to say
my Celsius scale is not
twice as warm as I can handle.
Yeah.
What would that be? 63.
Really hot.
Really hot. Probably burn.
Yeah.
3rd-degree burns.
You'd have burns. Yeah.
Never mind. I really don't do that.
And we did that.
Well, if it's cooking the eggs, what do you think it's doing to you?
Cooking my eggs.
Lord. I'm sorry I brought this up for everyone, but anyway, they are delicious on avocado toast and other interesting things. So anyway, if you have not tried one, I'm sure you will soon because it seems to be a new hip thing to do, showing up at all the trendy restaurants. And then we
just turned a bit red. You're right.
I was trying to save him a little bit, and he did that to himself.
I think my white balance needs to be adjusted.
Loosen your tie, man. You're choking.
Yes, that must be it.
Yeah.
Actually, I cracked myself up with that. You're cooking my own eggs.
Good grief.
Dear, oh dear.
Anyway,
sorry,
since it changed kind of the, originally I was planning on flying kind of late on Friday to meet up with Justice to take the same flight, but since he wasn't going, my work allowed me to get on an earlier flight. So I think I arrived at the airport at 3:30, and I was like, oh, there's a 4:10 flight. I walked up as they were boarding. I said, can I get on the standby list? And she goes, well, it's full. And I said, yeah, I'd still like to be on the standby list. And I got the last seat on the plane. So
good girl. Well done.
It was excellent. So that was nice. Didn't arrive in Vegas at midnight. Got there at about 5 p.m., which was much better. So consuming good food, was able to start much sooner. Spent quite a bit of time at the pool. The weather was actually very lovely in Las Vegas, kind of sunny and 72-ish degrees all weekend long. And went to see Guns N' Roses on Saturday night.
Yes, I saw some of the pictures. Very good.
It was a great show. It was the last
Judy
show
was
of this.
very jealous.
I know. And I think I did remember that she was a fan. So next time for last minute tickets, we'll have to get her. It would have been close to get her to Vegas on time, I think.
I was going to say you need to give her like 24 hours notice for
It would
last
have
minute
been
ticket, not
maybe
ideal.
just that much. So
Yeah.
But it was
That's
a good
enough
time.
notice for Steph, but not for Jilly.
Well, she's got a bit further to fly.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
And then actually came back earlier than planned as well because the original plan was Justice was going to stay longer, so I was going to spend the whole day on Sunday in Vegas and take the red eye back and go to work. And I was truthfully kind of dreading that just a little bit because it's not a very long red eye flight from Vegas back to Charlotte. It's like 3.5 hours, so it's not really enough time for sleep. So I went back earlier again on standby list. So it was good. It was a nice little getaway. My thanks to my neighbor for having some flexibility and joining me because it was fun.
Very cool. Now, when you go, do you gamble at all?
I had a couple requests, and one of them I think was for Micah. Right. I don't know if he's still in the chat room. I did play number. You wanted roulette number 22 that lost, and then I was also supposed to place a bet on black, and that also lost. So I'm sorry. My neighbor did win on roulette about $150. So.
Oh, nice.
He didn't make the same bets I did. I should have followed his instead.
Oh, well. Well, you tried.
Yeah. It was fun. It was still fun.
I'm not a gambler myself. I usually...
It depends on who I'm there with. I wasn't really feeling like gambling a whole bunch. To be honest, like I said, we just, we both, when we're work quite a bit. So it was nice just to kind of relax and not do a whole lot.
Excellent.
Which amazingly you can do in Vegas as well.
You could do anything in Vegas.
This is true.
So long as you don't tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, as far as you know, that's all I did. So.
Yeah. Right. Well, we have spies. We know what you really did.
Uh-oh. Secret cameras following me around.
Yeah. we got that captain to stick one up for you.
That's what I'm afraid of.
It's on everybody's EFB.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I went on this 3-day trip, just got back from a little while ago. And it was nice because I didn't have to lug my recording equipment with me. And but I did get a chance to do a couple of meetups. And the first was a meetup, kind of a private meetup in Florida near Sarasota, actually Bradenton. The airport we fly into is kind of halfway between Sarasota and Bradenton. And a young man named Kyle Hathaway was there. He invited me to come up and check out their 737-800 sim. That is a private sim that was assembled, and I can't remember his name. I think it was Sam, his property in Bradenton. And instead of having like a regular garage or a 3-car garage, this thing is like 2 or 3 times the height of a regular garage with huge doors on it. And Nick, you'd immediately recognize it as, oh, that's a simulator building. And sure enough, it was. And a private one. And so I did take the H5 recorder with me and a mic, and I was sitting in the right seat, and I was Kyle's co-pilot, and I recorded this. Okay, folks, I am in real life, I'm in Bradenton, Florida. And in the virtual world, I'm sitting, actually in real world as well, sitting in a 737-800 simulator. And we are presently passing through about 19,000 feet, heading up to flight level 370. Actually, I guess we should do a climb check. Yes, we probably do. All right. Okay. Well, that's kind of handy. Oh, okay. Altimeters. Standard. All right. Climb check complete. Easy peasy. Anyway, we are in the virtual world on a 737. Delta 209 is our call sign. And we're passing 20,000 or flight level 200, heading up to flight level 370. Just took off from Cancun's runway 12 right. And we are heading to Quito, Ecuador. And this is all part of a project, World Flight, and they are here in Bradenton and actually all over the world, apparently, raising money for charity. And I'm with Captain Kyle Hathaway. I'm his first officer. And say hello to the APG world, Kyle.
Hello, APG world. Good to be here with Captain Jeff flying.
I'm not flying.
Well,
Kyle's flying.
yeah, I guess I'm flying. It's good to be here with Captain Jeff in the cockpit.
So tell us about the charity and what you're raising money for, and a little bit about World Flight and all that jazz.
We are raising money here in Florida for the All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg. Our money goes towards the families to help them when their kids are in the hospital, so they can stay near their children. World Flight started, I believe it was 2000, from some teams in the UK. Basically, it's a group of about, I believe we're at 10 to 12 simulators. I don't know the exact number, around the world. It's usually organized out of Australia. And every other team in various countries around the world, we partake in it. So we're flying online on the VATSIM network. And we can all see each other. We have live ATC provided by controllers on the VATSIM network. And we do a 24/7 operation simulating the airliner flying for the whole week. And we stream online on twitch.tv, I believe, /cockpit builders for our stream. And you can watch us there, and you can donate. And if the donations get high enough, some parts of the airplane start to fail.
Okay, yeah, I was informed of that, and at first I was going to make a big push for lots of donations, but now, understanding what's going to happen, please do not donate. Yes, as Kyle said, we're on a live video stream, and Cockpit Builders, you can learn more about cockpitbuilders.com.
Yeah. And so cockpitbuilders.com is a cockpit building website. We also have the website for the team is World Flight Team USA. And you can find our stream linked from there.
All right, I got that wrong, I guess. So that's and I understood that the donations, the contributions for the charity, the Children's Hospital, 100% go to the hospital, the charity. And so I was under the impression that I was going to get 50%.
Like your accuracy rating.
Exactly. Oh, well, it's still a lot of fun.
It's called bait and switch, right?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, this is a lot of fun. And it's incredibly detailed, this simulator here. And it really does feel like we're flying. And I'm very, very impressed with all of this. So thank you for inviting me, Kyle. Anything else you'd like to say about World Flight and Cockpit Builders and all that?
No, just check it out. We do this once a year, every November, first week in November every year. Here in Sarasota, for us in North America, we're a North American team here. And that's about it. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure. That was a lot of fun. Very realistic. These simulators that these hobbyists build are just amazing. I mean, Nick, if you walked into one, you'd think that was something that your company had for your Category D training device or whatever. Although it wasn't on a full motion thing, it will be at some point. I saw the motion platform outside. Apparently, it had suffered some damage from a flood or something. But really, really nice. Really nice.
Yeah, it's amazing how the personal computers have got to such a state that they can run this software with ease and run big screens. And the whole cost of this kind of technology has come down to the point where don't get me don't let me misconstrue this, but because it's still quite expensive to build one of these, but it puts it within the reach of a group, whereas a full-blown three-motion simulator that you and I fly in costs millions.
Yes.
You can build an extremely good replica for a few $1,000s. So very impressive.
Right. Now, this one we were in probably was, I'm just guessing, they didn't tell me, but I would imagine probably pushing 10 grand, I would imagine. And it's still a work in progress, but it's an incredibly serious hobby out there. And I think we mentioned on a previous episode, maybe last year when this was going on, or perhaps maybe a couple of years ago, because I do remember talking about this charitable event, World Flight Australia, and the 747 that they use for the Australian team. If you go to the website, worldflight.com.au, you'll see that there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 simulator teams. Well, maybe 5 in Australia, 1 in New Zealand, and then a couple in, I think, in the UK. Can't tell from their names. Czechoslovakia, Germany, Turkey, and this one is called World Flight Team USA. But as Kyle mentioned, he's Canadian. You could probably tell from his accent. And so it's kind of like a Team North America, actually. And so really cool. It's a wonderful thing they do to raise money for charities, local charities. So the teams that are in other parts of the world, they're raising money for a local charity there as well. And as you mentioned, 100% of the donations go to the charity. And by the way, looks like it's still going on. There's a timer here that says they've been doing it for 4 days, 1 hour, 34 minutes, and 10 seconds. So I think they're going to be doing it for a full week. So please check out, if you're listening live right now, or you're listening, shortly after we release this, head over to worldflight.com.au, and then perhaps you can find a team in your country and contribute to the cause.
That would be great. I mean, Jason Cochran in the chat rooms just mentioned that he thinks just the overhead panel will cost you about $9,000. So I think you can
Wow.
build one. You can build one for a lot less if you don't want to go for the full experience. But if you wanted to look exactly like the real thing, then obviously you're going to have to fork out a lot of money.
The seats on this thing, these were actual Boeing. I mean, I recognized them immediately. They were just like the 727 seats.
Oh, really?
And they're real. Mm-hmm. They're real Boeing 7-something series seats. Oh. And the center console was, identical to what I remembered the 727 console looking like, except for we had 3 thrust levers, Captain L, or throttles, butterfly valves in the middle. But anyway, it was a great time. Thank you very much, Keith, I don't want to keep calling you Keith, Kyle, for inviting me up. It was a blast. Oh, you know what? Actually, the best part of it was one of the team up there. His wife is from the Philippines, and she cooked an amazing meal. And it was, I don't know if you guys have had pancit before. There's really thin rice noodles and a nice spicy sauce and chicken and peppers and that kind of thing. Oh, man. I walked into the room. They said, do you want to, grab a bite to eat before we go back to the hotel? And as soon as I got close enough to smell it, I went, oh, yeah, I'll do that. And as soon as I saw what were in those pots, I thought, I think that I've had this before and I love it. So thank you very much for that. That was a wonderful meal. Yeah. So that was my first meetup on the trip. And then yesterday I had a layover in Toronto, and I met up with our producer Liz and a few others, and you're going to hear from them here in a moment. We went to a local place. I think it was the same place that they went to when Dana had a layover up there. I think sometime, I guess, earlier this year, or was it last year? I don't know. It was pretty recent. Anyway, called Scatabush Italian Kitchen and Bar. And here is some audio from that. Hey there, we're at Scatabush in Toronto, Canada. And we're at a meetup here, and it's just been a wonderful time. Sitting at a table here. Let's see. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of us, including me, showed up here for this wonderful meetup. And I'm going to do as we always do, pass the microphone around. And we're going to start with Christian Bale. He's got a break from shooting whatever movie it is. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. It's Christian Base. He's sitting next to me, and he is going to tell you about our little meetup here, and maybe a little bit about himself.
Well, it's wonderful to have Captain Jeff here in Toronto. There's no T at the end. It's just Toronto. Toronto, yeah. So great to have you here. We've had the pleasure of having Captain Dana here, and I missed Captain Steph when she snuck in and out of town for the Canadian International Air Show. And we just have to get Captain Nick here. He can stop in when he's on his way to visit his family out in BC or something, but it would be great to meet with the two of them. So yes, I'm Christian Base, and not nearly as good looking as Christian Bale, and don't have nearly enough money.
That's not true. Well, maybe the money part.
And I will pass it over to Jeff's first officer.
Yes, I'm the first officer on this trip. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm the first officer on this trip. It's been fun. We only had 2 days together, though, unfortunately, so it's too bad. But it's been cool getting to know everybody that's kind of part of this community and seeing a whole nother part of aviation that I don't usually get to see. So yeah, it's been a real pleasure coming out tonight and meeting everybody. So I will continue on the microphone.
Hello, APG community. My name's Dan, and thanks, Captain Jeff, for coming. Thanks, Liz, for organizing. And Nick, sorry for badgering you with the constant questions. But here's Sean.
Hello, this is Sean. Nick didn't say how awesome he was, but he's pretty awesome. This is my first time coming out, and it's great to meet Captain Jeff and his first officer. And meeting everybody else here. It's a great group, and I enjoy listening. I've been listening since episode, I think it's like 120 or something like that. So, so I'll pass the microphone on here.
This is my third APG meetup. I'm Brenda, married to John, the Flying Duck. And this is all I want to say. I'm going to do a musical tribute. I love pasta. I love cheese. I love the APG community. So it's great to be here with everyone. That's it. That's all you get.
Okay, she's got to do a Java Jive and I've been bugging them to do that for so long. You got to, yeah, I mean, you guys got to, we'll do it at some other time. Yeah. All right. Here is Brenda's lesser half.
Well, it's my star is born. My lovely wife, she can perform like that, and she did. So again, we're delighted to have another weekly meeting of the APG syndrome sufferers, and we're commiserating each other in this lovely downtown establishment and meeting some old friends and new friends. So always a delight to come and enjoy the company and the repartee, delightful time. So we're going to pass along to the Chief Operating Officer, the CEO, the money behind APG is Liz.
Okay then, John. Now that we've covered all the talented people on this side of the table, anyway, thanks Jeff and Nick for coming tonight. It's really great to have you come up to Toronto and meet up with us. So always great to have you up here, and I know everybody's enjoying spending some time. Over to Chris.
Well, hi there. It's Chris Rat. Stumbling across this meeting tonight reminded me what a roving bunch this is. I must say the highlight from the evening for me was when Captain Jeff's first officer was asked for ID before he could participate in a beer, and Jeff's discussed when they asked him for ID to see whether he shouldn't be back at home. But always good to see the guys. Thanks for coming into Toronto, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Hi, I'm George Leslie. This is my first meetup, and what an honor to meet Captain Jeff on the very first get-together. and it's a great bunch of people here. It's quiet, not quiet, but I found out about your podcast through when Nick appeared on Every Little Thing, and he did a plug for you, and I went in and got the syndrome early, and there was a couple of weeks that to the exclusion of all media, I was APG only.
Oh, you are a sick man. You are a sick man. So nice to meet you, and welcome to the APG community and the aviation podcasting community in general. And a lot of great shows out there. I could name them all, but the only one I can't include in that category is Opposing Bases. That one, I'm not sure how in the world they're still doing the show. I don't think they have any listeners at all. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, it's been great to see everyone. And as always, and I say this every time, the best part of doing all of this, the show is fun, but the camaraderie and the community is just the best part of this, and actually meeting people face to face. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this little audio and going to throw it back to the studio. Thanks, Jeff, for throwing it back to me. And as you can tell, we had a great time there at the Scatabush Italian Kitchen and Bar.
Was the food good?
Yeah, it was really good. Thank you, Liz, for the treat and for organizing it and all that. Great to see everybody. And hope to do it again sometime in the future. Maybe in the springtime when it starts getting warm again up there. I think Liz told us that it was snowing already up there today.
Yeah, she was out walking Hannah in the snow. Great to hear that an Every Little Thing listener managed to find our show. So that was worthwhile doing. That was good.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you for doing that, Nick, and for promoting our show. Okay. And let me just make sure there was nothing else to talk about. So if you want to see where some of us are, if we know where we're going to be around the country or around the world, and if you want to see when we might be recording the next episode and other cool community information, please head over to our calendar, which is found by heading over to airlinepilotguy.com/calendar. It's also on Slack, and you really should join our Slack team, and Hillel will tell us about that. And no, not time yet. End of the show. Okay. Yeah, he's not keeping track of the time. Hillel will tell us about the how you can join the Slack team at the end of the show. All right. With that, then I think we should move on to the Coffee Fund, which is a group of people, listener supported. This is what the show is. It's not supported by advertising at all. And we do appreciate our Coffee Fund cadre, our coffee bar club, or whatever you want to call it. Great people that take ownership in the show and give us some financial support. And let me play the Coffee Fund theme.
Johnny, how much more coffee? No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me.
A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. That is the Jeff Smith in Nashville, Tennessee, who does our APG theme and sings the Java Jive for us while we talk about those fantastic folks who contribute their financial resources to our show. And since the last episode, using the Coffee Fund Classic method, we have Randy Ackerman, Brent Brackhoff, and Raghunath Apudare. How'd I do, Raghunath? Probably butchered your name. Sorry about that. Anyway, thank you all for your generous contributions. And you can also become a patron of the show, like pledge a certain amount per episode. And you can find out information about that on the website. And since the last show, we have a new executive producer, and his name is Daniel Thepper. Daniel Pepper. I was going to try to do a Dr. Pepper thing, but it didn't work. Oh well. Too much music in the background. Anyway, thank you, Daniel, for becoming an executive producer. And if you want to join him, along with everybody else in this group of folks, head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did. I know that we are.
Captain, incoming message.
Thank you. Okay. So we're now on to one of the best parts of the show, which is your feedback. And we're going to start with item 1, Brian from Katy, Texas. And he sent us some audio feedback.
Hello, Captain Jeff and crew. This probably falls under the category of rumor and hearsay, but in watching the Game 6 of the World Series, of the American League Championship Series on Saturday night, there was a comment by the Fox broadcaster that I thought was interesting, and it was actually airline related. The Fox broadcast crew and the umpires were on a chartered flight out of New York on Friday night after Game 5, and he mentioned that when the plane was getting ready to take off, sounded like it was on the runway. They had to stop the takeoff or stop taxiing and go back to the gate. And the pilot mentioned to the crew, or to everybody that was there, the Fox newscast crew and the umpires, that he had never seen so many red lights in his cockpit before, and that's why they had to turn around and go back. I did some quick searching and was not able to find anything other than what was said during the broadcast, but I thought it was interesting, and y'all might be able to find some additional information on that. Have a good day, and talk to y'all later.
Well,
by the way, this is Brian from Katy. I realized I didn't say that at the beginning.
Well, I told them at the beginning. Oh, thank you, Brian, for that. And I searched for that incident as well and was not able to find it. Perhaps charter flights don't fall or filtered out of sites like the Aviation Herald, or perhaps it was something that was not reported. I don't know. But I did look and was not successful. Not so sure that that would be something that I would share with everybody on my flight.
Definitely something I wouldn't share. I mean, there may be some nervous passengers on board, and I think it's a very responsible thing for the captain to start coming out with quips like that. There are a lot of people who really won't appreciate knowing that, even if it's not in, even if he was just having a bit of a joke. But no, I don't think that's the best idea.
Yeah. But apparently it was something that wasn't good for continuing the takeoff, and did the right thing, apparently, by aborting the takeoff. So, yeah, interesting stuff. But yeah, I only have a few resources to really look at to see, what I can find for these things, and it just was not successful. So sorry, Brian. Let's see. Welcome back, Steph.
Hi.
Up.
Good to be back. Yes. No, sorry, I had to take a quick work-related phone call there.
Understand. Yeah.
I should have been able to get to it earlier in the day and was not able to due to busy schedules. So.
I understand. Yep. We have lives and jobs and stuff that we have to do. That's why we're doing the show late.
What are these?
Nick doesn't have a job. No, your job is to be here and to do.
That's right. That's your job. Darn it.
We've given you a full-time job.
Okay. Item 2, Michael, what's up with the closed window shades? Hi, Captain Jeff and APG crew. I've been on a trip from Sydney, Australia to Houston. Oh, by the way, before we do that, I just saw Houston, and I want to congratulate the that wasn't Houston.
No, they lost.
The Washington Nationals for winning and winning the World Series. So sorry, those of you who are fans of the Houston Astros. Anyway, I probably shouldn't have mentioned it. I'll cut it out in post, probably.
Probably not.
Not. Anyway, I've been on a trip from Sydney, Australia to Houston, New Orleans, Washington, D.C., Boston, and now New York. Checked your schedules, and unfortunately, there were no sync-ups in destinations. Now, what's with the window shades in the U.S.? It's like being in a tomb flying domestic over here. I agree. In Australia, it's the law to have shades up during takeoff and landing. That rule seems to have disappeared over here. I was last over in Boston in 2015, and I'm pretty sure it was up all up at the time. I've been to China, India, and Singapore in the meantime, and they still have the rule. I get the heat issue during taxiing, but it makes sense for safety reasons to lift them up. Otherwise, may as well jump on a carnival ride and close your eyes. I've been flying standby, so I haven't had the luxury of choosing where I sit, and unfortunately, it seems to be in the middle or aisle. Yeah, that's why I think Steph always goes for the window, and I do too.
Yeah.
So we have control.
I mentioned I did fly standby twice this past weekend. The first time it was the very last seat on the plane available, and it was a window seat. And it was like, ooh, good luck there. On the way back, not so lucky, aisle seat. And the guy in the window seat on my row had the shade closed most of the time during the middle of the day.
Yeah, I had the shade closed as well.
All the time?
Up front?
No, not during takeoff and landing, because in the UK, it's a requirement to have it open. But no, in most of the crews, you're up at 36,000 feet. The world is white and fluffy. It's blindingly bright. And unless you're going past something significant, you might as well watch a decent movie. The view's not very good out of those tiny little windows anyway.
He's lost that love and feeling. I do too. I mean, I kind of lower it a little bit, not completely. I usually have it crack a little bit.
If the sun is like shining directly in my eyeball, I think any sane person is going to lower the window shade at least a little bit so that you don't have the sun blinding you. But no, actually quite the opposite. Even if I'm watching a movie, unless there's a ton of glare and I can't see anything, I'd prefer to keep the window shade open.
So I was on a non-revenue flight up to Baltimore when I went up to the Captain Cool's party.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a window seat, and it was actually a window, not one of those window seats that there's no window there. And I had it open, and somewhere during the climb out, shortly after takeoff, the person sitting next to me just reaches over with his arm and slams the window shade shut.
Did you just look at him like?
I didn't even look at him. I just immediately, as soon as his hand went away, I went and I popped it all the way up. I mean, it kind of irked me a little bit. I'm thinking, what are you doing?
Like, you don't have control of the window shade. If you're in the middle, you get both armrests. That's how this works.
Right.
You have armrests. I have window. Person on the aisle has bathroom access. It's all kind of give and take here.
And I must say that the way I reacted was probably a little bit. I just slammed it right back up and like, don't you ever think about doing that again? I didn't say anything, but then I thought, I probably could have maybe more slowly opened it up, instead of slamming it up.
I think I would have
like
looked
that.
at them, given them a very bizarre, confused, half angry look, and then slowly, like while still maintaining eye contact, window shade back up.
Yeah.
Like you don't
Remind me not to sit beside you, Steph.
I'm nicer to people I know.
Window wars. I like Liz's statement. Window wars.
This could be a new title. Could be a new reality TV show. You just follow people actually on the aircraft.
Yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was kind of it really wasn't amusing. It was irritating. But
have we ever here in the U.S. had the rule of keeping the window shade? I have never heard it said ever once in my 30 years of life.
23.
23. That window shades must be open for takeoff.
I never have heard it either.
Taxi takeoff landing.
I have a feeling what it is, Steph, is that it used to be that people were excited about flying and wanted to look outside. So that's why they were always up. And now we're in the world where nobody wants the windows open. They could care less about what they're doing, where they are. And
there's a lot of airlines now where the entertainment option is actually bring your own device and you have access to movies, TV, whatever. And those screens are probably a little bit more difficult to see if there's a lot of ambient light. I don't know. Actually, I think the seat back ones are pretty difficult to see too sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think everyone's just got so much easy access to entertainment. It's easy to shut out the outside world.
Yep.
Have your own little, private movie studio while you get from point A to point B.
People like Nick.
Mm-hmm. Get a book. If you have a book, you need all that nice ambient light so that you can see easily. And if you've got a book, someone sent you a book, that you're never going to return.
Probably. I did warn him.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I actually I didn't read the letter too well, and I started the first chapter on the great UFO mystery, and I did wonder what on earth he'd sent me. Then I read the letter, and it said, "Ignore the first 2 chapters."
Oh
Have
boy.
to do with rods and cones, partially. I think more so it just has to do with direct visualization out the window. You know, if you need to, if so, keeping the window shades open during takeoff and landing. If there's a need to stop and evacuate for some reason, you want to be able
Mhm.
to look out the window and physically see what is happening.
Right,
That is
whether-
the reason. That's the safety reason that we keep them open.
Yeah. See whether the airplane's right side up or upside down, or if there's a fire out there or something. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you, Michelle or Michael, however you pronounce your name, for the feedback. And the answer is, I don't know. We don't know what's going on.
We're lame. We're sorry. We
Sorry.
apologize.
Yeah. Yeah. But you knew what you were getting into sending a feedback to a show that's only 50% accurate.
True.
Item 3, Ham Radio Jim. Greetings. I was traveling on a domestic airline this weekend and was troubled by something I witnessed. A gentleman was waiting in the pre-board line at the gate. He was sitting on a lithium-ion powered mini handicap mobility scooter. Wow, that's a mouthful. A lithium-ion battery-powered mini handicap mobility scooter.
Have you seen these, by the way?
No.
Because I was behind someone in line going through security. I forget in what airport. But it's like a miniature little scooter, and it kind of folds up into suitcase size. It's heavy still, so you need assistance kind of lifting it and moving it, but it's much more portable than like, a big mobility scooter or a power wheelchair.
You just like stand on it, or you kneel on it,
It's
or
still, no,
something?
you still sit. It has a little seat, and you can kind of tuck yourself up into it, but it's just kind of compact.
I need to get one of those.
So do I.
Anyway,
No, I have not seen those.
I thought it was very neat, but
If I get one
after
of
the
those,
fact-
can I compete in the marathon?
You'll have to have some extra batteries, I think.
That's all right. I can bring some batteries.
Have some stash along
Have
the
some
way.
people like posted along the route just to swap out the
Well,
batteries.
yeah, the people who want to run, they get water. I get batteries.
But anyway, after I didn't even think about it at the time, just standing in line in security, like it was such a interesting because I hadn't seen one before, so I was kind of interested in it and asking about more how it folded up and the mechanics of that. I didn't think about the battery issue until after the fact. So carry on, Ham Radio Jim, because I think you and I have similar questions.
He was thinking about it. As I boarded, I noticed the scooter sitting in the jetway along with the child seats, carriages, etc., with a checked baggage tag on it. I saw the man seated inside and asked him about this, and he said his scooter was, quote, airline approved. I didn't want to hold up the boarding process, but what I should have asked him is, did you remove the battery from your scooter before turning it in as checked baggage? I wonder if your airlines have a requirement to have customers remove the large lithium-ion batteries from these scooters before accepting them as checked baggage. These batteries are significantly larger than a laptop battery, and I'm not comfortable knowing that there are these large lithium-ion batteries in the cargo hold of the airplane I'm flying. Do you share my concern? Yeah, we're all concerned about these lithium-ion batteries not accessible in the cargo hold. Does your airline require these batteries be removed prior to stowing them in the cargo hold? When these batteries are carried in the passenger compartment, at least there's a chance that they can be stabilized if a thermal runaway occurs. As always, I look forward to an intelligent and comprehensive discussion of this. Ham
Wow.
Radio
I'm
Jim.
sure,
Your
I'm sure there's a
expectations are-
podcast where you can find that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, let us know when you find it. We'll go and listen.
We'll do our best. I believe these types of incidents will only increase in the future. Witness the smart suitcases and similar travel-related lithium-ion items that are appearing on the market. Thanks and congratulations to you all on 400. Yeah, next episode, 400.
Mhm.
And this is Ham Radio Jim, 7-3s from Whiskey 2 November Sierra Foxtrot, his ham radio call sign. P.S. Something always seems to take me back to my time at the Air Force Flight Test Center at Edwards Air Force Base. I remember back in the early 70s getting involved with the safety and health aspects of these then new and classified batteries being used in air-to-air missiles. Oh, didn't know that's what they were using for back then. Very cool. So I just quickly looked up at the Acme guidance for mobility devices and lithium-ion batteries, and let's see, it says attention, verbal notification to the captain is required when lithium-powered mobility aids are on board. I've never been told about this. I don't. Maybe we've never carried one on my flights. Anyway, supposedly I'm supposed to be aware of that, but a notification to officer in command or a NOTOC is not required. Advise the captain during the huddle/minute brief before boarding. Okay. For lithium-ion powered mobility devices that are collapsible and contain an easily removed battery. So I'm assuming that was what that gentleman had and what you saw, Steph?
I would have to guess that the battery is removable because, yeah, it collapses. It kind of folds up into like a kind of a giant briefcase, suitcase type deal.
Okay.
I'm looking at some of these online right now, actually. Most of them weigh about 50 pounds or so.
Oh, that's heavy.
Well, there's a 35. Oh, one has a piece that's only 30. Heaviest piece is only 35 pounds. But yeah, some of them are about 50 to 60 pounds.
It's a
So
lot
yeah, they
lighter
are
than those
they are
ones that
heavy,
are like
but
the big full-size ones. I mean, they're so heavy that sometimes too, like huge
oh yeah, and you can't
replicas can't hardly pick the
yeah.
darn thing up.
Yeah. So these are definitely more portable. I mean, they're not light by any means, but
Yeah.
for what they are and what they do and the amount of weight that they can actually carry, most of them have weight capacities of around 300 pounds.
Okay.
Not bad.
Customers may carry on the one installed battery as well as two spare batteries. Again, carry on.
Mhm.
Each battery must be capable of less than 300 watt hours or contain less than 25 grams of lithium content, which is labeled on the battery. And for mobility devices where the lithium battery is installed as an integral part of the device must be carried in the cargo compartment. That is troubling, I think. It will not count toward a customer's baggage allowance and will be transported free of charge. The device must be turned off. There must be at least one method of preventing accidental activation. And there is no battery size limit. The battery casing, if exposed or accessible, must provide protection to the battery. So it sounds like these things are being put in the cargo hold with the ones that are integral, that you can't take the battery out of it, I'm assuming. So
yeah, I took the time to look at a number of airlines' policy on those, and I've seen varying limits in Europe between most of them in Europe seem to be a maximum of 100 watt hours, and they don't require, so long as the battery is properly housed and protected in the device, it's not removed. And it's left in the device, and there has to be other regulations. So there has to be a way of isolating the battery from, accidental discharge, accidental short circuit. So you have to be able to turn it off properly, and so that it can't be turned back on again by accident, etc. So 300 watt hours is pretty big. 100, yeah, manageable. But you can also carry two in your hand luggage and bring them on board in the cabin, which I guess is a better idea. But I think the problem we're meeting here, Jeff, is that these are for people with a disability, and the laws for disabilities at times are so strict that it rather puts the airline in a difficult position. So you can't deny them, but sometimes taking the battery out of these things is either impossible or presents a bigger risk than leaving it properly housed and cushioned and protected inside the device.
good point. So what's a person to do, huh?
I think you just cross your fingers, don't you?
Yep. Hope for the best.
Exactly. I mean, I'd love to know how many of these devices, which are used every day, they go trotting around, your average mall or up and down the streets. How many of them have little bumps and crashes that actually ignite the battery. If there were some stats on this, it might make me feel a bit more comfortable, or not, as the case may be.
Yeah, you really
But
don't
I
hear
can't-
about it.
Nope.
No,
Haven't heard anything at all.
Yeah. Well, good question, Ham Radio Jim. Thanks for sending in that feedback.
Yeah, you might want to buy yourself a decent car if you're not going to fly with any of these mobility scooters in your hold, because I'm afraid they're probably going to be there. So, yeah.
Have some advice for him. Get one of those really nice Class A luxury motorhomes. Travel
Ooh,
style.
there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And then find someone to drive it for you, so you can sit in the back and drink beer.
Yeah.
Or hide in the bathroom and not watch what's going on the road.
That sounds very familiar to me.
Yeah, put the
I don't
telly
know
on.
why.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a fine time.
Are we there yet?
Yeah, we had a good time. I was just looking through some pictures today, and that whole road trip was a blast.
Oh, it was fun. Absolutely.
Need to do that again sometime.
Well, please.
Yeah. Let's see. Item 4, Ben. He's transitioning from helos to the airlines, and he has some audio feedback, some short audio feedback for us. And let's take a listen.
Hey, Airline Pilot Guy community. This is Ben calling from Fort Rucker, Alabama, home of Army Aviation. I'm currently an Army Reserve helicopter pilot, and I've been listening to your show for about 6 months now. Really enjoy all the great content you guys put out on a weekly basis. I'm transitioning to a career at a regional airline, and hearing your conversations have been informative. It's one thing to hear about people complaining on online forums, and it's another to hear dialogue and talk on what the industry is really like. One question I have is regarding airport standby versus short call reserve. I see my regional has both, and I'm wondering if picking which kind of reserve I'll end up being on is seniority based, location based, or if I should expect to have a combination of both of them. Also, as a thank you to your show, I wanted to do a giveaway on wingitapparel.com. And they also wanted to offer your listeners a discount code of APG10 for a week. They got cool, clean looking aviation apparel for jets, fighters, helicopters, and other stuff. Well, anyways, that's it for me. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Well, thanks, Ben. And thank you for telling us about your transition from the military helos to regional airlines. And we always love hearing people's journey. And let's see, the question now, I'm not sure we're going to be able to give a definitive answer on this, because I think it will vary depending on what airline that you end up flying for, and the types of reserves they have. Like at Acme, we don't even have, the only time we have airport standby is I think when we were flying the shuttle service between Boston, New York, LaGuardia, and Washington National. And I'm not even sure we do that still. We might, I don't know. Anyway, that was the only time I've ever heard of that kind of reserve where you actually go to the airport. But I do know that the regional airlines do have that, and maybe some of the majors as well. And the short call reserve, where you are not necessarily needed to be stationed right at the airport, but you have a reasonable amount of time to respond to a short call. And for us, it's generally within a 2-hour time frame. So if you're on short call reserve, you can live your life as long as you understand that you can't go too far away, so that you can get back home and grab your suitcase, put your uniform on, and get to the airport within that 2-hour call out period. And I suspect that with most airlines, again, I'm just guessing, it would be that third option where you probably get a combination of those things. I'm not so sure that you're actually allowed to pick which type. And if you can, then it's probably based on your relative seniority on that airplane and that base. So that's the best guess for me. Maybe Dana might have some more information. And I know that we do have some regional pilots that listen to the show, and they would probably be the ones that would know the definitive information about that. Maybe they can help us out.
Yeah, we used to have a 2-hour call, which was pretty standard. but we also had a 4-hour call, which was considerably more relaxed. And we didn't do any airport standby at all. But the 2-hour call for most people was a bit of a problem because, you can't really leave home if you're, most of us were an hour or so away from the airport. You've really got to have a bag packed and be ready to jump in your car and go. And some people, of course, commuted. So they might be in another country or certainly the other end of this country, in which case they would frequently have to fly down, position themselves in a bed and breakfast or somewhere on a motorway service station and sit in their cars until their call period was over and they could either go home, or if they were called out, they would, just complete the end of their journey and go to work. So not ideal if you weren't close to the airport, sadly.
Okay. When I first started at Acme almost 31 years ago, we didn't have, I'm not even sure we had cordless phones back then. I guess we probably did. But if you wanted to...
31 years ago, you said?
Yeah. Or maybe we had those phones that like the big portable phones that are in like a big giant pack and had like a VCR battery.
Trying to think. It's 88.
You're sort of in the beginning of the big mobile phones, yeah.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah, there probably were.
Those bag phones or whatever we called them.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember when the actual real more portable phones started showing up, and that was when I was a first officer on the TriStar in the mid to late 90s, I think. At least that's when it started becoming common to see people with them. Anyway, that's my point was going to be that when I first started and while I was on reserve and short call, we had something, and this is for you youngsters out there, you millennials and stuff. Maybe I'm not even sure if you've heard of this device called a beeper.
Oh, I'm familiar.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. Or
I had one until like 3 years ago.
Okay, and that's and I had one of the original ones where all it did was beep.
And then you had to go find a payphone.
Then so you only gave that. Yeah, you had to go find a payphone, and then you call, and then you only give that number out to certain people. And for me, it was like if somebody's paging my beeper or beeping my pager or whatever you say, I knew it was. I knew that was the airline, and so I knew who to call.
Right.
Then it got a little bit more complicated or sophisticated, I guess, where it would actually, I think, wouldn't it like show the number that was calling you? Or
the most recent ones that I had, and like I said, I had a pager up until like 3 years ago. And I think I actually still maybe have the option to have one, unless we actually got rid of them for good. For a while, it was in the phone number to call back, so it actually would have all that information. And sometimes you could send like embedded like codes with numeric numbers and things. Yeah. But the most recent ones, you can send like several lines of text, like almost like a tweet, like 180 characters, 200 characters or something. So you can give a brief bit of information.
Wow. Fancy.
I know.
Yeah, just like having a phone.
Although sometimes you got some kind of funny pages too, because you had to be kind of brief, so they would sound kind of Twitter-esque.
Mm-hmm.
Patient, emesis, eggs, Zofran given.
How do you shorten deceased?
Oh, that would be a phone call for sure. Well,
yeah, you wouldn't want to beep somebody on that.
Yeah. Well, that'd be an overhead page, probably not a pager page.
Yeah. Anyway, see where technology has come. Where it really is a different world. I mean, you're constantly connected if you want to be with anybody in the world.
I think I'm going to go back. This has nothing to do with anything aviation related, but I like Bill Murray's style. Doesn't he just have an 800 phone number with it connected to an answering machine?
Nice.
So if you want to get in touch with him, you have to call the number, leave a message, and then he might get back to you.
Does he not really have a cell phone or anything like that?
This is the rumor. This is what I hear. Yeah.
He's OTG.
Mm-hmm.
Off the grid.
Yeah.
A lot of people are kind of doing that these days.
Sounds kind of refreshing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, really. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and thank you, Ben, for the Wing It apparel. Checked out their website, wingitapparel.com. That's Wing IT Apparel, APPAREL, for those of you who do not know how to spell apparel. And the discount code APG10, he says it's good for a week. Now, he sent this on the 28th of October, and that's beyond a week from the time he sent us the feedback. So I'm not sure if that code is going to work,
Sorry,
but
Ben.
you should. Huh?
I said sorry, Ben. But
Yeah,
there's still
sorry,
cool
Ben.
stuff. I'm actually looking at the website right now.
Yeah, it looks there's some pretty neat stuff. So go buy some stuff from them anyway, and then try the APG code. And if not, maybe they'll extend it for another week or so. So anyway, that's all we have from Ben. And let's move on to, this is an interesting one. Texas Charlie, item 5. Howdy all. Hope everyone's having a blue sky day. Attached are a list of questions one might expect during an airline pilot interview. If you don't mind, pick the question that you think would be most entertaining for us mere mortals, or most embarrassing for you, and answer it as honestly as discretion allows. I'm not sure I want to participate in this.
I haven't read the
Adios.
questions yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to do that right now. Adios and cold brews and neat bourbons for all. I guess that one's for our good friend Captain Danny and the neat bourbons. The title of this article, 15 HR questions. Steph, you should probably ask these questions.
I should. And I think I need to pick questions for
Oh, no.
Jeff and Nick here.
Okay, we'll try that. 15 HR questions to expect during your airline interview.
So you want me to read this here briefly? We'll say,
sure.
Interviewers aren't simply looking to test your aviation knowledge. They want to know or want to see how you'll handle real life complex scenarios that you'll face as a brand new first officer. The human resources or HR portion of the interview shouldn't feel intimidating, but without preparation, you could be surprised by the depth of questions and struggle to find an answer. Here are a few subject areas you should expect during your HR interview. So, scenario-based questions, experience gained from previous work, tell me a time when, blank questions, knowledge about the job role or company you're applying to, personal skills and qualities, how you've learned from past mistakes. There's no way to list everything, but here's a few questions to get you started. So, these are some good questions here. Oh, Nick, come back.
I try.
How did you know I was going to ask you first?
Turn off his video. But we knew he was still there.
Actually, this could be kind of interesting. This is for Nick. What do you know about the history of our airline? So answer honestly, which I think you can now. No?
Acme Airlines. Yes, it was formed in 1918, just at the end of the Second World War, with old Vimy bombers, and they kitted them out for passengers, and they used to fly a regular route across the Atlantic via Iceland and Greenland, a little bit adventurous. They then moved on to DC-2s, which they proliferated around America. And shortly after the DC-2 came the Mad Dog. And of course, that's been the most modern airplane that the company has ever been able to afford. So since then, since that was probably about 1925, we've been flying Mad Dogs. And because no one else wants them, we had lots of them. It was great. We had more Mad Dogs than we knew what to do with. So we flew them everywhere, all around the United States, with our fully manual controls, very trustworthy. And eventually, of course, we got fly-by-wire. So we replaced the bits of old rope with steel cables. The wires were much better than the old ropes. We've found those really, really very good indeed. So we've polished up the inside of the airplane, so it looks pretty good now. But quite honestly, when you look at the outside, it's about as ratty as it was when we first got them. But they fly most of the time, so we're very pleased with them. It's a great company to work for, that's for sure.
Wow,
we
that
might
was
get
pretty accurate.
Yeah, that was very accurate for Acme. I was thinking maybe we get a little insight into the real Acme Red, but that's okay. That was good. I like that.
I like 1918, right after World War II.
One. Sorry.
You did say,
you did say World War II.
Yeah. Well, that's 50%. I didn't want to make it too accurate.
And I found the perfect question for our most passive aggressive favorite captain. You have to pretend you're not the captain here, though. So you're applying for a new
Okay.
job. So your captain and the lead flight attendant, Jeff, aren't getting along, and it's becoming difficult to function as a crew. What would you do?
I'd probably use Twitter and Facebook to tell everybody what's going on and just have fun with that.
That sounds about right. And ignore the actual situation happening.
Yeah, because
passive aggressively.
I'm passive aggressive. I don't want to be in any kind of a situation where you could have a confrontational episode or.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't like confrontation.
I've got one for HR.
Okay.
Okay, so you're accompanying and observing a crew during one of their normal flights. When they land at their destination, the crew meet in the bar. The captain comes down wearing a red cocktail dress and in full makeup. He's a man.
So
what do you do?
The captain, you said the captain is a he, yes?
Yes.
I don't think there's anything to do. I think they're perfectly allowed.
I don't see that question in here on my question list.
I was scrolling as well, which is why I was half listening to what Nick was saying. And,
so the scenario again: the captain comes down in a red dress,
a red cocktail dress,
full makeup,
and fully made up. What do you do?
So
you order them a drink.
Yeah, very good.
And
that would be my answer.
Are his pocketbook and his shoes matching?
Yeah.
They're good question. Handbag, we call them.
Handbag, whatever.
Absolutely
I'm not so sure what a pocketbook is.
I might ask for makeup tips because I'm not that good at that myself.
Yeah.
Your makeup looks fabulous. Please tell me how I can apply it to myself.
I'd just like slip my room key over and say, okay. You look pretty good.
Clearly, none of us are hireable material, so it's amazing that we all have jobs or had jobs in Nixon.
I love number 12. After a long ground delay, you receive your takeoff clearance. As you line up, the fuel drops a few pounds below minimum takeoff fuel. You let the captain know, and he says, it's just 20 pounds of gas, and continues. What would you do?
A few drops?
20 pounds. I go, that sounds like me. It's just 20 pounds of gas. Come on, let's go.
We got plenty. This will be fine. This was actually my favorite question here.
Which one?
You ask a flight attendant for a Coca-Cola with lime. A passenger notices and is concerned you're drinking a cocktail. How would you handle the situation?
I'm glad that Dana's not here.
Yeah, I think we know what that answer
He'd get out
would
his baseball bat knowing Dana.
That flight would be canceled.
I'd share. Be like, Here you go.
Yeah, not me, but I would handle it differently probably. Yeah.
Yeah, these are pretty standard HR type questions that can kind of be applied to any to a lot of work environments. Just changing the situation or scenario just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, very interesting. Nice try, Texas Charlie, for getting us to say something that we'll regret. Or maybe we did, actually.
We regret. We regret Nick's question to us.
And we regret Texas Charlie setting in that. All right. I think we still have time before we do the bad part of the show. So let's continue with Ralph. And he sent us a link to this article. And he goes, what's film? Useless article of the month. So here's the headline. New 3D airport scanners will destroy your camera film. Airports around the United States are getting futuristic new CT scanners and give the TSA an instant 3D view of carry-on luggage contents. But the new scanners are a development film photographers should be aware of. They can reportedly wipe out your unprocessed film with a single scan. So, Nick, you're a photographer. Can you explain to the younger folks what film is?
It's a celluloid covered with silver iodide, I think, crystals on an emulsion that's light sensitive, and you slipped it into your camera. And when you took a picture, it exposed a section of the film to the image, which was etched there nicely. And you moved the film on to the next frame and took another picture. They frequently came in rolls of 36 around that. length. And then when you completed it, without exposing it to the light, you had to rewind it back in the canister, take it out, carefully send it off to be processed, or if you were clever, you process it yourself. And then you'd end up with a negative, which you then had to put through an enlarger onto photosensitive paper and project the image onto that, which would then expose it on the paper. So at the end of all that, and having got yourself thoroughly stinky with lots of nice chemicals, you would have a hard copy of the picture you took. It, generally speaking, if you did it commercially, used to take about a week to get that process done. So the chances are, quite often, it would take 2 weeks, and you'd even forgotten what was on your film. It was always a bit of a mystery tour when you opened up the package and saw the.
It was expensive.
It was expensive.
So I just ran off to look because somewhere I found, not and like a while ago actually, 2 disposable film cameras from.
Oh yeah, well
I definitely have no idea what's on them, and they weren't even like I hadn't even finished the roll on a couple of them.
You can still get them done.
I know, and I don't know where. I need to take them in, but now I've misplaced them again. I'm sure I'll find them in another decade, and then I'll really be.
Well, don't take them. Don't put them through these new 3D airport scanners.
I wasn't. I won't.
There is quite a resurgence of the use of film. If you go and B&H Photo in New York, you'll see a whole section there just on film photography. A lot of photographic schools still teach the use of film in the initial classes, and there are a lot of very high-class wedding photographers who specialize in photography or wedding in traditional film, because it's a bit like someone listening to an analog record, an old vinyl record. You do get a different quality with a proper film than you do with digital. And you can't really replicate that. And a properly taken wet film image is really quite delightful. So if you had just spent many thousands of pounds on photographing a wedding, you wouldn't really want to fly back to your studio and take the risk of having all your film wrecked. So from that point of view, for professional photographers or keen amateurs, it would be interesting to know. I used to carry a lead bag to keep my unexposed and exposed film in when I went through airports. But these scanners are so high powered, they're designed to penetrate really dense metals like leads to see what's in your bag, to make sure you're not secreting something that you shouldn't. So that won't even work. Secreting?
I think that's.
I think of things like leaking out or oozing out of your skin or something.
You're hiding something there you shouldn't. So so don't you, if you've got film, you'd have to declare it and have it sort of looked at in your hand. I don't know how they would inspect it if they. So it would be a problem.
That must be so stressful for a photographer just to use film. I wonder if they use like digital backup at the same time when they're doing the wedding photograph, just in case.
Well, I think if you're a professional, it's not really a problem. You're pretty confident of your settings, and you're usually pretty good at your job. If someone was learning the thing and using wet film, you could go make a lot of mistakes. There's no going back and checking until it's too late.
And Micah and I have the same. I was going to say the same little joke. I use a lead bag when I take my baths to keep my eggs from cooking.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, and they came in rolls of 20 and 36, I think. And the thing about that is that when you were taking pictures, you really had to think about the fact that you had a limited number on that roll of film, or if you had a disposable camera like Steph's talking about. It's like digital cameras, I mean, take thousands of photographs because, if they're not any good, you just delete them.
I've got 46,423 photos on my phone that have pretty much all been taken with my phone.
That's a lot of photographs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The problem is I never delete anything.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you for that very useful information, Ralph. I think he agrees with us. It's pretty useless, but I guess it applies to some people that are still shooting film. Let's see. I guess we have time for number 7. Texas and LaShock. writes in, I wasn't expecting to write in again so quickly, but I saw something that I thought I'd share. I was sitting down at breakfast in my hotel in Beaufort, Georgia this morning when I noticed a woman ahead of me reading USA Today, which had something about the 737 MAX in it. When she was done, she let me see it, and it turned out to be a full-page item from Boeing itself, dated October 25th. It started off with apologies and condolences for those lost in the crashes, of which we are approaching the anniversary of Lion Air 610. Before going into what they refer to as a progress report on the MAX. They gave a brief rundown on the solutions they have implemented to prevent such situations from happening again. They refer to feedback they have gotten from their partners and given an affirmation of their commitment to innovation and safety. I wasn't able to find an online version, so this might just be a print-only thing. USA Today is not on my usual reading list, so it was purely by chance that I saw this. I don't know if there have been any other such pieces in the paper prior to this, or if there are any other periodicals. As we are wont to do, I find myself wondering what this means for Boeing and the MAX. Is this just something to commemorate the day of a tragic event? Or could this be the first step in a reach-out campaign to regain the public's trust and favor prior to returning the fleet to service? What do you think? Anyway, always looking forward to the next show. This is the Texas and LaShock signing off. What do you think?
I think even just putting Boeing aside, when you have a reputation or trust issue that's developed, I think it takes a lot of work to kind of restore good faith, and that includes putting out very transparent information as to what's being done to remedy whatever the situation was. And I do think certainly Boeing has quite a challenge in this regard. So I think it's probably a little bit of both. You'd like to think that even if there wasn't something that they needed to do just to regain trust and favor, that they would do something to commemorate and remember tragic events that have occurred. But I think it's also a little bit or a lot of the latter in terms of trying to rebuild trust and favor, because they have a product that people are going to be using presumably at some point again in the future, and they need to let people know pretty transparently and honestly as possible what they've done to make sure that those tragic events don't happen again.
Yeah, the aircraft's going to be coming online in a few months, and it'll be moving back in. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of publicity about its return to service. And if I was sitting in Boeing, it would be something I would be acutely aware of, the need to reinforce the trust people have in my company. So, yeah, I think this is probably a very fair move by Boeing. They're not admitting anything; they're just telling the facts as they are. And we all know them, but I think they're trying to take steps to regain the public's trust, which I think is very admirable, and is certainly their shareholders will appreciate them doing something proactive, I'm sure.
And was it? I don't know about the time frame here, but was that right before the congressional hearings when the CEO was being grilled by?
I think probably right around the same time or just before.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's about right.
That might have been that might have been a reason for it as well. Yes.
Yeah, kind of just kind of get something out there positively, in a positive vein before being grilled, and the news coverage is very negative here, and a lot of showboating from a lot of the politicians. That's a big surprise. Anyway, we have a point of order. Point of order! With my really bad English accent.
Gravel or something, or gavel.
Gravel. We could take some gravel and throw it on the table. But apparently, secrete can be used in the way that Steph and I are. What, I missed something?
No, I'm still laughing about secrete because it is, you can use it the other way, but that's not at all how I heard it.
They're basically two. Yeah. When I heard it,
secrets
when he said that, I thought of the same definition that Steph and I think of when it's like of a cell or gland or organ produce and discharge a substance, something, in response, let's see, insulin is secreted in response to rising levels of glucose in the blood. But there is also an alternative definition, which is a verb, third person present, secrete. So it's basically some synonyms Conceal, hide, cover up, shroud, disguise, screen. So kind of like secret. You secrete something. You try to prevent somebody from finding out about it. Right?
Would you change the tense or the
pronunciation?
The pronunciation.
Would it
So
be
one is secreted, the
secret?
other is secreted.
I don't know.
No, well, not the way I've heard it used. I
okay.
use it in the same way. You can, yes, either way. But so you've got to work it out for yourself. Which one is which
Yeah.
one you're referring
Yeah, you go,
to?
ooh, what?
I'm going to secrete this on my person, or I'm going to secrete from my glands.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Awkward.
nasty. Yeah, very awkward. Yes, and embarrassing. Okay. So I think it might have something to do with also the difference between American English and British English, perhaps. You know,
Well, it is an old English term, so
there you
it
go.
should have been around before you guys set off on your own. So
how
Doesn't
rude
mean
of
we
us.
yeah, before you started marmalizing our language.
That's okay. Liz backs you up, Nick.
We love you too, man.
Oh, very good, thank you.
Yeah.
I was secure in my use, my knowledge.
Yes, you were. Okay. Well, on that note, I think it's now time for the best part of the show, which is a secretion from the old pilot. He calls it plain tales. Here we go. Enjoy.
The old pilot's plain tales. God help all of us. Earlier this year, we heard the sad news that a great air race using electrically powered aircraft was cancelled. Although 30 teams had entered to compete, the organisers were unable to secure safe passage through the countries en route. A sad state of affairs when this second great air race was left with nowhere to go. The second, I hear you ask? I wonder, dear old pilot, what was the first? Well, sit back and I'll tell you. The year was 1919 and the world was just settling down following the armistice after the First World War. The Prime Minister of Australia, Billy Hughes, was attending the Paris Peace Conference and he had experienced flying for the first time. Much enamored by the event, he imagined what benefits could be derived from regular flights from the mother country to Australia and back, carrying passengers, goods, airmail, and such. He cabled his government. Several Australian aviators are desiring of attempting flight London to Australia. They're all first-class men and very keen. Your thoughts? Only 4 weeks later, an official statement was released. With a view to stimulating aerial activity, the Commonwealth Government has decided to offer £10,000 for the first successful flight to Australia from Great Britain in a machine manned by Australians. The Great Air Race was on. The Australian press created an avalanche of negativity. A circus flight, they called it. Billy Hughes has another terrible idea. A complete waste of money and bad news for all were just a few that appeared on a regular basis. Overall, it was the opinion of most scribes that no aircraft was capable of a flight halfway across the globe in less than 30 days and over a distance of 11,000 miles, that's 18,000 kilometers, when the world record was less than a third of that. Impossible, impossible, impossible. However, within 5 months, 6 groups of Australian war veterans had paid their £100 entry fee and signed up to have a go. As for the route to be followed, the press described it thus. The Air Ministry route number 1 to India, then onwards. The start will be made from Hounslow, and the machines will then fly across France down to Pisa, from then to Capua and Taranto, from which later place the machines will make for Valona in Albania and proceed down across Greece and hence to Cairo, then to Damascus and Baghdad, and onwards to Karachi, Delhi, Calcutta, Rangoon, and Singapore, at which latter place there is a control. From Singapore to Batavia and along the Dutch East Indian Islands to Timor, and then the last stage across to Port Darwin, Australia. The journey was considered one full of dangers, and the pilot who makes it may well, it was written, be proud of his achievement. It was at 11:44 on October the 21st that the first took off. Flying a Sopwith Wallaby, a large single-engine biplane designed specifically to compete in the race, was Captain George Matthews, with Sergeant Thomas Kay as his mechanic. The aircraft was powered by a Rolls-Royce Eagle 8 engine and closely resembled the earlier Sopwith Atlantic, but they had dispensed with the passenger accommodation and much of its emergency gear. They received a message from the Australian Prime Minister, who wanted to wish you and Sergeant Kay every success in your adventure. Plug on day to day, doing your best, but do nothing foolhardy. The Wallaby was well fitted out with instruments and described thus. Beside the usual engine one, the compasses, and the airspeed meter, there is a turn meter, which, by recording the difference of air pressure on the two wingtips, tells the pilot if he's keeping on a straight course when he's in a mist. There is a flow meter recording the rate of consumption of petrol, which works out at about 15 gallons an hour. A spirit level for sideways motion, and an inclinometer for measuring the angle fore and aft, as well as an azimuth mirror for checking the compass by readings from the heavenly bodies on a system patented by Captain Matthews himself. The window below the pilot, too, is marked in degrees so that he can observe the direction of drift. There is a wheel at the side for altering the angle of the empennage in flight. The modern pilot, especially if he is also the navigator, has plenty to attend to. After their departure from Hounslow, they were obliged to descend near Cologne. It was reported that some speculation as to the reasons for landing there has been occupying the minds of many interested in the flight. We are informed that the machine and engine are both quite all right, and that what caused the descent was exceptionally bad weather. Continuous bad weather kept the Wallaby at Cologne until November the 2nd. They next arrived in Belgrade, Yugoslavia, which was in a state of turmoil due to post-war devastation. Local policemen thought Matthews and Kay were Bolsheviks and arrested them, confiscating their passports. The men were held in captivity for 4 days before being allowed to continue on to Constantinople, a journey delayed by a lack of petrol and then an oil shortage. On landing, they noticed a leak in the water jacket, which they ingeniously filled with Wrigley's chewing gum. Once moistened, the chewing gum became pliable, and when mixed with asbestos and secured by copper wire, it became the perfect filler. Despite harsh weather conditions and more technical malfunctions, their journey proceeded relatively smoothly until they arrived overhead Bali, only 1,000 miles short of their prize. The delays had cost them dearly, but then, trying to land, they crashed into a banana plantation. Matthews came out of this accident unscathed, but Kay sustained a rib injury. As for the Wallaby, well, that was completely destroyed. Back in England, at 11:33 a.m. on the 13th of November, Captain Roger Douglas as pilot and Lieutenant James Ross as navigator departed in an Alliance P-2 biplane. Only a few minutes into the flight, their plane, from an altitude of less than 1,000 feet, went into a spin and crashed into an apple orchard, and both airmen died instantly. A week later, at 10:37 a.m. on November the 21st, with a crew of 4, a Blackburn Kangaroo left Hounslow. The occupants comprised Lieutenants Valdemar Rendell and David Williams as pilots, Captain Hubert Wilkins as navigator, and Lieutenant Gonzi Potts as mechanic. After 18 comparatively uneventful days of flying, on December the 8th, they crash-landed at Suda Bay in Crete, damaging their engine to such an extent that they were forced to withdraw from the race. A little late to the game, at 9:34 a.m. on December the 4th, a single-engined Martinside Type A, piloted by Captain Cedric Howell with Lieutenant George Fraser as navigator, lifted off from Hounslow. During his World War I service, Howell was credited with having destroyed 32 enemy aircraft and was considered an extremely gifted pilot. Approaching Corfu in Greece, due to heavy cloud and mist, he misjudged his bearings, and the aircraft sadly crashed into the ocean just short of land. The wreckage and Howell's dead body were eventually recovered, but Fraser was never found. The fifth entrant, an Echo DH-9, piloted by Lieutenant Ray Parra and Lieutenant John McIntosh, didn't depart London until January the 20th, 1920, and so they were ineligible for the prize, but we'll hear more of them later. The final entrant was Captain Ross Smith and his brother, Lieutenant Keith Smith, with Sergeants Wally Shearers and James Bennett. Ross was the pilot and Keith was the navigator, whilst Wally and James their mechanics. Ross Smith had served with distinction during the war as part of No. 1 Squadron Australian Flying Corps. He had been twice decorated with the Military Cross and 3 times with the Distinguished Flying Cross. Their aircraft was the Vickers Vimy, a twin-engine biplane designed as a heavy bomber at the end of the Great War, but too late to be used in action. It had leapt to fame earlier in the year when Alcock and Brown flew it across the Atlantic, becoming the first across this great ocean by air. Powered by Rolls-Royce Eagle 8 water-cooled V12 engines, it was the most advanced aircraft of its type. However, it still had an open cockpit, so Ross was going to have to fly halfway around the world whilst exposed to the elements. Prior to takeoff, their World War I biplane had been painted on the wings and fuselage with the registered letterings Golf, Echo, Alpha, Oscar Uniform, which was a recent requirement for all international aircraft. Ross Smith quipped that what this really stood for was God help all of us. When they finally departed on this epic adventure, Keith Smith wrote, "Climbed over Hounslow for 10 minutes getting height, meanwhile realizing weather conditions were not very nice. Ross picked up his course and we were really started. General conditions became worse, and for the first hour we saw no recognizable landmarks." The story his diary tells is incredible. Over Abbeville, they found a line of dark, heavy storms which they tried to fly beneath, but the snow was too thick and their pitot tube got choked. On the 5th attempt, they managed to climb clear of the weather, but then had to navigate just by compass, and the temperature was freezing, their thermometer showing 25 degrees of frost. Heavy cloud, rain squalls, snowstorms, and blinding, unbearable heat were to be their constant companions throughout the duration of their journey. Landing at various airfields, race courses, and open fields along the route also presented problems, but taking off was often a bigger challenge. On several occasions, the ground was so heavy and the plane so saturated in mud and slush that they were lucky to get airborne at all. Together with his brother and their 2 mechanics who were constantly patching up the aircraft, they remained on course throughout their journey despite 9 additional unscheduled stops that they had to make. Their accommodation was often rudimentary, which made sleep difficult, and they had to refuel and maintain their machine themselves, often lugging big barrels of petrol up to the high fuel tanks. Flying the aircraft in the open, Ross Smith struggled with the constant changing weather. To reduce weight, they decided not to carry any radio equipment, and so they had no way of anticipating weather ahead, and using only a handheld compass to guide them, they were often flying blind. As detailed flight maps of the route were not available at the time, Ross and Keith Smith used whatever they could find, often basic hydrographical maps, which were more suited to ocean navigation than flight. The crew were fully exposed to the weather, with the result that the maps suffered during the many storms encountered, particularly from Calcutta onwards. As they progressed, Keith kept track of the days. Bangalore, 20th day. Singapore, 22nd day. They had planned to arrive in Darwin on the 29th day, just one day in hand. But in Surabaya, they were bogged down in deep mud and were stuck. In desperation, they persuaded the locals to dismantle their homes and use the woven rattan walls to make a runway, and at last they were off again. On the final and most dangerous leg over the water, 180 miles off the coast of Port Darwin, they sighted HMAS Sydney, a tiny speck in the Timor Sea below them. The ship was positioned to guide them towards Port Darwin, but the men were perfectly on course. Proof of wonderfully accurate navigation on the part of the aviators, according to Captain H. Haley of HMAS Sydney. The brothers, who had no radio on board, decided to drop a message in a bottle to the captain below to let him know that all was going well. Using string and a hastily made parachute, they dropped the bottle, which landed in the sea near the ship. It read, "The air, 10-12-19, Vickers Vimy. The commander, HMAS. Very glad to see you. Many thanks for looking after us. Going strong. Keith Smith, Ross Smith, Sergeant J. Bennett, Sergeant W.H. Shears." Their arrival in Darwin was reported in newspapers around the world. Flying high and strong, the Vickers Vimy, manned by Captain Ross Smith and his companions, crossed the coast of Australia at 3:20 p.m. on Wednesday. Less than half an hour later, it had landed on Australian soil at the Fanny Bay Aerodrome. The weather was fine, and the scene presented as the gallant airmen came safely to earth was very picturesque. Practically the whole of the population of Darwin and the surrounding districts were assembled to witness the great event. Captain Smith and his companions were cordially welcomed, but not before the crew had taken time to fill out the required quarantine and customs reports. Hundreds of cable, wireless, and telegraphic messages of congratulations on the accomplishment of their great feat awaited them, including the one from the Prime Minister of Australia. "We offer our heartiest congratulations to you and your companions on winning the greatest race in the history of the world, and on the skill, gallantry, and endurance you have all shown. We are particularly proud to feel that the first to fly from England to Australia is an Australian." On the 27th of February 1920, Ross Smith received the prize of £10,000 on behalf of himself and his crew. The Vickers Vimy was then flown to Adelaide and is now on display at Adelaide Airport. Ross and Keith Smith were awarded knighthoods by King George V. Mechanics Wally Shears and James Bennett received Air Force promotions. It was only 2 years later that tragedy struck. Sir Ross Smith and James Bennett died testing a Vickers Viking amphibian aircraft which crashed in Byfleet soon after taking off from Brooklands Aerodrome. By coincidence, the same aircraft type also killed John Alcock, who I mentioned earlier, the first pilot to fly across the Atlantic. Smith received a state funeral and is buried in Adelaide. But what of the DH-9 that left England too late to compete? Well, the aircraft finally completed the flight, the first by a single-engine machine, in an epic 206 days, earning Lieutenant Ray Parra the sobriquet Battling Ray. Although late and well outside the time limit, the crew were awarded a consolation prize of £1,000. The DH-9 has been restored and can be seen on display at the Australian War Memorial in Canberra.
I love this music. Sit there and drink some nice cocktails.
If you enjoyed this story,
We did.
do me a favor, will you, and leave me a review. Decent one.
What a great story. Now, how long does it take to sail from England to Australia?
I don't know, 4 or 5 days. I would have thought if you didn't stop. But
Oh, it's got to be longer than that.
I don't. Yeah,
But it was like
I-
200 some odd days it took these folks to do it in the Vickers Vimy?
No, they did it. The requirements was to do it within 30 days.
Oh, okay.
They were given that was a 30-day time limit.
I
from
misunderstood.
takeoff to landing.
Okay.
No, the bunch that did it in 206 days, they weren't even really competing because they got airborne after the start date.
Gotcha.
And they took well over the 30 required days.
You could almost swim in that amount of time, I think.
Exactly. But I mean, I think their adventures were long and complicated. But the boys in the Vimy, they had it all tied down. And I didn't have time to go into all the preparations the teams had to make to pre-position fuel and survey landing sites and all that kind of stuff that had to be done. There was an incredible amount of work that involved in setting up one of these flights, let alone the danger of actually doing the flights themselves, which I think remarkable in aircraft of that vintage. I did rather love the description of the instruments in one of those
That was
aircraft.
neat.
Yeah, I know. I was scratching my head trying to work out what this one with two probes, one on each.
Yeah, differential
wingtip
between the left and the right wingtip. And
oh God,
wow,
really? How's that work?
Yeah, I guess it worked okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was amazed that they were able to convince the people of the village in Surabaya or whatever to dismantle their houses so they could use it for a runway.
I know. I guess
we're gonna need the space here. So.
Yeah, we're just pull your thatched house apart and use it. But I guess they were quite persuasive, and they were probably a big cops back then. An airplane landed there in the first place, since they probably hadn't seen one before, or many before.
Well, they probably thought they were some kind of gods or something, you know.
Well, the old cargo gods. We discussed that before. Very interesting. But I love the ideas that they wanted Australian pilots or Australian crews to man these aircraft, which I think was brilliant. And £10,000 back in those days would have been a reasonable sum of money. But I mean, considering the longest flight was not even a third of that distance, to set off and try and go exceed that world record by so much, I think was pretty brave.
That is amazing. It really is. Yeah. The things they used to do back in the day.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't imagine doing it now.
Smart.
Yeah, good job you didn't try it, Jeff. They'd have locked you up as a Bolshevik toot sweet, mate. You'd have been. They probably would have still had you under lock and key.
If they knew better, yeah, certainly would.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm going to have to make an apology. 50% is our accuracy reckon. So my Australian accent is only 50% accurate. So my apologies to the Antipodeans who are going to go, that doesn't sound really like an Australian accent. But I am 50% Australian.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah, I thought you were.
Exactly. So that's where the 50% comes from. So
I've noticed at the end there, the part that Jeff always cuts off, that's really just for the separate standalone podcast that seemed to be with an attempt at an Australian accent as well. No?
It was slightly, yes, ever so slightly, just a little. Forgive me, I only got it half right, if that. But I do love having a go, as they say.
Yeah, and thanks, Steph. Now I'm gonna not be able to cut any of that out. I'm just gonna have to leave it all in. Oh,
Yeah,
actually, thank you, because it'll makes my job easier now.
I think it's meant to be cut out in this show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Love the music by the way, that you put as a background there.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to find something from the 20s, but or the 30s. By the way, I had numerous requests from guys in Australia to tell that story. So I can't name everybody, but thank you very much indeed for that suggestion. I did eventually get round to it.
You did, and we all appreciate it. All right, moving on. Let's try to knock out as many as possible here. We have some more audio feedback, this time from Brooklyn Nate. He says, shortest audio feedback ever?
That was short.
Very, very brief.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I may have made a mistake.
Uh-oh. That's unlike you.
Not very unlike me. Thank you, Steph.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There we go.
Compared to the time, you're usually very good.
Shut up. All right, here we go.
Hey guys, Brooklyn Nate here with what might be the shortest audio feedback ever. I think this might be a good one for Nick. Are JFK's runways shorter than some other major airports? Reason I ask is I recently took a trip, 777-300ER, taking off from JFK, felt like a full power takeoff or very close to it. The return trip, taking off from Hong Kong, same aircraft type, I know different humidity, different stuff, but higher temperature, lower engine power setting, seemingly. So I'm wondering, do you guys know, are JFK's runways uniquely short? Why else would they do a full power takeoff in the 300ER? Interested to know your opinions. All right, guys, keep the blue side up. I've been listening, lurking in the background, and appreciating them. Thanks.
Well, we appreciate you, Brooklyn. Nate. Not sure if that was a short, it may have been close to the shortest audio feedback that we've ever received. What say you, Captain Nick? Are you looking up the airport diagram? You're muted.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can you hear me, brother?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yep.
Good. Okay. Well, they're not significantly shorter. The departure runways, if you get full length, 11,000, 14 and a half, 10,000 feet. Yeah, they're all pretty long. But of course, they have had a significant amount of work being done in various parts of JFK, and frequently you're given an intersection departure, which can shorten the takeoff run a reasonable amount. So, yeah, it is possible that they were using one of the shorter runways or being given a shorter takeoff distance than they might have liked. And if they were very heavy, yes, they might have, the acceleration might have felt. But I'm thinking not really. There doesn't seem to be a significant difference. It's very hard perception-wise, and I'll acknowledge you're probably a very experienced traveler, between takeoff acceleration rates. It often depends on how smoothly the pilots release the brakes and bring the power up. If that acceleration is brought on in a nice, smooth manner, you don't feel like you're accelerating very hard. Whereas if they let the brakes off in a big chunk and power the engines up very hard, the aircraft will initially feel that there's a big surge of thrust. It may give you the impression that they're really working hard to get airborne. So a lot of it depends on the pilot's handling technique. But I wouldn't have thought so. Jeff, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree with you. There is a lot of construction going on, at least right now at Kennedy. But when that isn't in effect, most of the runways, even the shorter ones, are quite long. So I agree with everything you said.
Okay.
I concur.
We have consensus. I'm gonna throw some gravel down.
Mm-hmm.
And
gravel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. You hear it?
Yes. Thank you.
We are very happy to report that Dana has made it safely, successfully, as far as we know, to Omaha, Nebraska.
Woo-hoo.
And he's in the chat room chatting with the folks there.
Hi, Dana.
By the way, yeah, hey, Dana. Glad you made it. So that's a good reminder to everybody that is listening to the audio-only podcast, which is most of you. Every now and then, it's kind of fun to catch a live recording of the show, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook and Slack and all that kind of stuff. Well, I don't know if we actually put out notices on Slack, but anyway, and join us sometime for a live recording of the show. I think you'll have a lot of fun. People in the chat room, for the most part. I mean, there are some in there that are, but most of them are pretty cool people.
You know who you are.
You know.
Has Richard Bell gone yet?
He's still there.
He came back.
He came back. Okay.
I'm just
Don't
kidding.
talk
They're
about it.
everybody's great in there. I just have fun poking fun at people because people have fun poking fun at me, and I enjoy it. All right. I always enjoy getting poked.
What?
All right. Dave, don't know what that way means. Says, "Oh, this is pretty cool." Hi everybody. Since hearing myself on the podcast, I've decided to email my feedback this time.
Oh, Dave.
I can't believe I sound and talk like that. I know we couldn't either, actually. No, I'm just kidding. I think we all experience that. You hear your own voice and you go, "Oh, that's not my voice. That's not the way I hear my
definitely don't
voice."
sound like that.
But after a while, I mean, isn't it true stuff? After a while, you kind of go, "Okay, I'm used to this. This is the way I
Yeah,
sound."
that is actually how I sound.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So
You start to ignore that cringe.
Yeah,
sensation.
I don't remember, Dave, anything unusual about the way you sounded, actually. But oh well. Anyway, I've been reading with interest about the new Autoland system from Garmin that is set to revolutionize general aviation. And he said, "What are your thoughts on this? Overkill? More erosion away of hands-on flying, or a big leap forward in safety? How often do you think a system like this would be called upon? I can think of times when instructors became incapacitated, I guess, but do you think the ability to activate it remotely is next?" Oh, yeah, actually, I'm pretty sure that it will be. I seem to recall Captain Nick having strong thoughts on these types of systems. Now, he has strong thoughts on pretty much everything, actually. And they're all great, strong thoughts. Keep up the great work from a very satisfied executive producer. Yes, thank you, Dave, for being an executive producer with Patreon for the Airline Pilot Guy show. And then he linked to the article. And I don't know, I didn't read this article, but I did see, and I think there are a bunch of videos out there recently on this Garmin Autoland system, emergency Autoland system, I think they call it. Have you had a chance to see it, Steph?
Or just the video, you mean?
The video, yeah.
No, I have actually not seen the video yet.
And I think Cirrus has like a version of it, and I think that their avionics are from Garmin as well. So it makes sense that they would have a system like this where you basically if your pilot flying the airplane becomes incapacitated, passengers that don't have any clue about how to fly an airplane can activate the system, and it's pretty impressive. It knows where it is, it knows what altitude it is, it looks for suitable airports to fly to, it makes radio calls, distress calls to air traffic control on guard and maybe the current frequency you're on. I'm not sure about that part.
And interestingly, it also gives some instruction and some feedback to the passengers that are in the aircraft that don't know what's going on, but in very kind of simplified format, just so that they're not, any more worried, concerned than, might imagine they already might be. And it sounds like they really put a lot of thought and effort into that part of it.
I was very impressed. I mean,
Mhm.
whoever did this video that I watched, it may have been AOPA. I'm not sure. I apologize for not remembering what video it was. But the guy was in there, and they just like hands off. They push the button, and they watch the airplane fly. And it says, as Steph said, gives really good, simple information to the passengers of this is what's happening. This is, don't touch anything here. This is going to
This is
land
going to
itself.
move. This is going to do, like you
Right. And it
Just
actually
really-
lands, and it puts the brakes on, and I think it actually shuts the
Yeah, it comes to a
engine
complete
off
stop and shuts the engine down. So that's the
and warns you not to leave the airplane until the engine, the propeller has stopped turning,
correct.
because that can be kind of painful, apparently.
Yeah. Would
Walking
not
into one of
recommended.
those. Yeah.
I mean, I love the idea that it can look ahead to weathers. It can assess the crosswind at potential airfields, the weather in between where the emergencies occurred and the destination, and decide which is the best airfield to divert to. It'll do orbits on the approach to lose altitude if it's too high for the profile. It can, I mean, if it hasn't got an auto throttle, then, and I'm allowed to say that because I guess some of these are piston airplanes, then they're thinking it will be able to turn off and on the engine to control its speed, which doesn't sound very, brilliant, but it's the
So
best.
for the
you
two
can
aircraft
do.
that it's going to be available on, or certification pending, those do have auto throttle, I believe.
Yeah, well, obviously that's the best idea. I mean,
Mhm.
auto brakes, auto throttles, so that effectively it can do a full auto land. Obviously, doesn't have the fallback systems that the auto land that Jeff and I used to have, because of course carrying passengers in large numbers, our auto land has to be so incredibly safe that it has to be able to operate with multiple redundancy. But of course, if this is an emergency system, then if it gets you on the ground in any form or manner, so long as you're still alive, it's done bloody well.
Mhm.
So, and I think by the looks of it, it should do a really good job. My only concern about the whole concept is that people will start using it it's a bit of a grobbly day. I'm not very confident about my flighting skills. I'll just press this button and let the airplane do it itself, which is obviously not what it's designed for.
So I was thinking of the same thing, but then I'm wondering if you can like disconnect certain features, because if you actually activate this emergency auto land system, it starts sending out basically Mayday
Mhm.
calls, emergency declarations, and everything else,
And let alone how do you reset it once you've done that to get the aircraft to work again, if it's going to shut itself down on the
right.
runway,
I
basically.
suspect there's a reset button, but that also is, I'm going to be devil's advocate here and go against my own argument. If it does declare all these emergencies, is that going to make people more reluctant to use it when they're in trouble? So they, no, I'll struggle on, because if I press this button, the whole world's going to know I'm in an emergency. So,
Or perhaps the only people that will end up actually using it are people that aren't pilots and aren't going to worry about that.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
that would be.
I mean, I can
brilliant.
imagine a few situations where if you are the pilot and you're not, completely at that I'm completely incapacitated point, but you recognize that it's no longer safe for you to be flying and handling the aircraft, it would be a good idea to do. But I think this really is, as Jeff said, geared more towards the passengers in the aircraft if there's a serious
I know,
emergency.
but I do love this bit where it kicks in if the pilot has effectively stopped touching the controls or switches, and comes up with a display saying, "Are you alert?" And if you don't activate something, press a button, then it will automatically take control of the aircraft and just start doing its thing. So if you have fainted, or you're on your own, or you've become hypoxic or whatever, then it will take control of the aircraft and put it on the ground for you. I think the sophistication of it is what has me really impressed. I mean, they seem to have looked at every avenue of safety, and they've come up with what seems to me to be a great package.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep,
thanks for
I agree.
noticing. Gail in our chat room says, it's like the keep lane assist in my new car. I'm now very aware of how bad of a driver I really am, given how often it fires.
I find those to be a little overly sensitive, don't you
they
think,
are.
Gil?
And it kind of sometimes reveals to me the inadequacies of these systems where
Mhm.
it sees something that obviously is not a lane that's like that's veering to the right or the left or whatever, and all of a sudden it starts giving you the warning that you're leaving the lane, and you go, no, I'm not. I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and I'm not sure exactly what throws it off sometimes. But anyway, it's being perfected, I guess. But Dana is telling us that he's the contrarian there. He says he thinks it's all crap. I just kind of
You summed up,
paraphrased. Summed up how he feels about it. Anyway, I have to say, you know how I feel about these things, and I was very impressed with this video that I watched. And I thought, maybe they are farther along in this technology than I thought.
They are, but at the same point, as just to recap a little bit what Nick was saying, this is not intended for, it doesn't have all the redundancies. It's not intended to be used in normal situations. This is you have to get on the ground safely, emergency situation, and it does the job. Even though it not taking away from the technological advancements that get you there to that point.
Right.
I don't see this as taking away from people maintaining their hand flying skills and their currency at all.
Right. Yeah, I don't see, unless they change the way this thing is activated and operates, I don't see pilots just routinely I'm just going to hit that button and let the airplane land itself. But I could be wrong.
No, you're going to have to fill out a bit of paperwork if you use it. I think,
right.
Having had the system declare emergencies on your behalf.
Yes. True.
Stay tuned for the next episode where Dana clarifies his statement. Because that is
we're
not what he was saying, Jeff.
We're not going to let him clarify anything. That was a very accurate description of the way he feels. I'm just kidding. Yeah, we'll let you explain yourself, sir. Item 10, Greg. The title of his feedback is Big Ass Beer.
Woohoo!
And yeah, I like that. I have to make this bigger.
That's what she said.
So I must have done a screen capture or something here. Hold my beer. We love beer at the Very Large Donkey Fan Company. Don't believe it? Try cutting the line to the fridge when we hit our daily goal at Global HQ. And Nick and I, Greg told us about that. When they make their daily goal at the Very Large Donkey Fan Company, they ring bells and they all go and drink beer. That's pretty cool, I think.
They do, yes. They have an afternoon off and they consume large quantities of alcoholic beverages.
Yes.
So speaking
staggering
of
all over the place.
The big
Although I do
fan
think
company.
Yeah,
Very large donkey.
I do think
I saw
they wait
one in
until
the wild this weekend.
Did you?
They
Where?
are at the McCarran Airport. When you get on the tram to
Wow.
go to whatever terminal or D gates or whatever, they're in there kind of circulating the air. And I actually was just I don't know what I was doing. I did not have my eyes gazing upwards inside that building, but my neighbor I was traveling with goes, wow, those fans really do a great job of circulating the air. And I looked up, yeah,
They really
I know
do.
all about big donkey fans.
Oh, you should have been there, Steph. You would have enjoyed that tour.
Yeah.
Let's see. So,
absolutely.
As such ardent admirers of one of the world's oldest beverages, we felt that it was high time that the Very Large Donkey Fan Company had one to call our own. While we love and support our local brewers in Lexington, Kentucky, a golden opportunity presented itself a few hours down the road in Asheville, North Carolina, which is home to a lot of amazing beers. On October 17th at Wicked Weed Brewing Pub, our cup finally runneth over. Naturally, the release of Donkey Kick Brute IPA was a big hit. From our custom tap handle below and our premium haiku above, both beer and air flowed in abundance. Beyond just loving beer, the Very Large Donkey Fans partnership with Wicked Weed on this limited edition brew is part of a larger strategy to grow our relationship with Anheuser-Busch and its affiliates so we can provide comfort and facilities at every level of the beverage industry. So I wrote back to Greg and I said, how can I get my hands on some, or actually my mouth on some of this great beer? And he said that it was a limited release, and I think he thinks it was only in the Asheville
Only
area.
at the probably just in Asheville at the
Yeah.
and sadly I was not in Asheville during that time because
Oh.
I've been to Wicked Weed many times and their beer is excellent. And they do a lot of this type of stuff where they have their beers are just constantly changing. So they have some set stuff, but then a whole bunch that just rotate and they're different and they're always trying new things. So very cool.
Yeah, it's a very clever company. Nick and I were just chuckling all the time on the signs they have in the parking lot and all over the company. They really go with that theme. It's very funny. Most of which we can't really say on the show because it's a where is it?
Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, Radio Roger. You ever hear of that guy? Does the intros for our show
once.
Yeah, once. Greetings, Captain Jeff and the rest of the APG crew. I've always been interested in gyrocopters and have read a lot about them. So my ears perked up when you discussed these unique aircraft in episode 395. I'm happy to tell you that everything said was correct. Wait a minute. That's the first time, I think. Thank you. However, knowing the subject may not come up again, I didn't want the opportunity to pass without sharing my knowledge about these fascinating flying machines. Tailwinds and Blue Skies, Radio Roger. So here we go.
It looks like a helicopter, but the gyrocopter is a completely different beast. Its upper rotor spins freely, driven by the wind, as a pusher propeller sends the gyrocopter forward. And yes, Captain Jeff, in spite of your doubts, it does fly. Captain Nick said gyrocopters take off like airplanes, but fly more like helicopters, meaning that they travel at slow speeds. That's true, but the gyrocopter's controls are nothing like a helicopter's. In fact, the controls function like those of an airplane, with rudder pedals that change the yaw and a stick which changes pitch and roll. But you sometimes use those controls differently. For example, you avoid a stall by pitching the nose up, not down. That's to increase the airflow blowing up into the overhead rotor, producing more lift. Pitching down can have the opposite effect, resulting in negative lift. And pitching too far down, well, that can result in an unrecoverable forward somersault. Fortunately, that danger has been greatly reduced with modern gyrocopters. They have a horizontal stabilizer, and the pusher propeller is mounted closer to the ground. Also, gyrocopters are much safer than helicopters, which will drop like a stone when the engine fails. A pilot would have only seconds to unclutch the overhead rotor and adjust the blade levels so that the air rushing up will spin the rotor and provide lift. This is called auto-rotating. By comparison, gyrocopters are always auto-rotating and will gently descend to the ground when power is lost. And gyrocopters are far more resistant to wind turbulence than airplanes. The airspeed that produces lift is the rotational speed of the upper rotor, which is so fast at the outer circumference that wind currents are relatively insignificant. Unfortunately, gyrocopters are less fuel efficient than planes. There's a lot more drag, so they never became popular for transportation. But with the ability to operate slowly at low altitude, gyrocopters are wonderful aircraft for pilots who just want to enjoy the act of flying. Hope that explains things. This is Radio Roger, over and out.
Well, thank you, Radio Roger. Always great to hear your voice, your professional radio voice on our show. And anything to add, Captain Nick?
No, I Radio Roger covered it beautifully. Because we had quite a famous gyrocopter pilot and designer here. He actually flew in one of the Bond movies, and he was a bit of an eccentric old Air Force wing commander. I can't remember his damn name now, which is bad of me. But so I learned about gyrocopters through watching him on television, and also when I was doing my gliding, we had one come and visit us for a few days, and we watched it fly. So that's how I learned about it. But I think they're fascinating bits of kit.
Excellent. Steph, have you ever flown in a gyrocopter?
I have not.
They've always been fascinating to me.
Mhm.
Like to maybe take a run in one of those one day.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
If you,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, maybe, I
Okay.
guess. I don't know. Sounds all right. No, if you, I don't know. If you find an opportunity, let me know.
Okay.
Be interested.
Yeah, come along.
Mhm.
Thank you, Roger, for that. And that bit about to prevent stalling, you pull up instead of push down. That would be a tough one, I think. That's kind of ingrained in me to do the opposite of that. Anywho, let's see. Item 12, Landon. Pilot Landon from the left coast. It was great seeing everyone in Oshkosh this year. It was an absolutely amazing time in my life that is only second to the day my baby boy Amaru was born. Wow. It was a lifelong dream to participate in the greatest show on earth and to spend it with my APG family.
He means Oshkosh. As
Yeah,
the
I know.
greatest
At
show.
first I thought he meant our show, but then I realized he meant Oshkosh.
Felt like I should clarify there.
Yeah, I know. I got it finally after I read the rest of the sentence. I've been meaning to send this feedback for a while, but I had just way too much to share. I figure just saying thank you to all that I got to meet from APG events and all of the wonderful friends that I had made in Oshkosh from all over the world. I feel like I read that wrong. I've been meaning to send this feedback for a while, but I had just way too much to share. I figured just saying thank you to all that I got to meet from APG events and all of the wonderful friends that I made in Oshkosh from all over the world. I want to give a very special thanks to Glenn Towler for teaching me how to Oshkosh. I'm absolutely grateful for this, Glenn, because with your help, I truly would have been lost and missed a ton of great airplanes and events. I missed the evening that all spent at Mike's Musketeer. Wait, okay. I missed the evening that we all spent at Mike's Musketeer and the good-looking Jeff. And he's not talking about me, is he? No. And I was astounded that we saw a MiG-17 in full afterburner. We had no clue. I always enjoyed good-looking Jeff's stories of his F-15 days. The F-15 is my fave, although that F-22 was ridiculous. Good times. Steph, it was great to finally meet you in person. And Dana, thank you so much for the Acme wallet. Your generosity was great, and it meant a lot to me. Nick, my friend, as always, it's great to see and hang out with you. It sucks that you are retired now and not flying into San Francisco anymore. We miss you out here. So, he must have forgotten the paragraph about me. So now that I've gotten all my thanks out of the way, I have a plaintail suggestion. I was pondering one day if there were a British equivalent to the Tuskegee Airmen. Lo and behold, I came across a YouTube story of the pilot of Caribbean. Apparently, there were pilots the pilots of the Caribbean. I don't know. Apparently, there were pilots from Jamaica and several other British colonies in the Caribbean that became RAF pilots. I began to research a little more and discovered that I rather hear the stories from Captain Nick. So, Nick, I was wondering if you could help share these pilot stories, as they seem to be to not be well known in the world, the U.S. for that much.
Yeah, I should get Johnny Depp to read that one, The Pirates of the Caribbean, shouldn't
That
I?
would be good. Yeah.
How's your pirate accent, Nick?
Arr, are you very good?
He just does an American accent.
That's right.
That's your American accent.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's an American pirate.
Thanks again, guys, for the great show and the great memories. I hope to see you guys soon in California and set up a meetup. Hello to all my left coast APGers. Y'all know who you are. Yeah, we all know who you are. Blue skies, tailwinds, and Cavu days. Thanks, Landon Harvey. Good to hear from you. Great seeing you in Oshkosh. You probably don't remember that, but I enjoyed seeing you there.
Well, I remember meeting Landon finally, so it was wonderful to meet you, and great that you had such a wonderful time there.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it was,
Jeff.
and it's a great suggestion, Landon. Thanks very much indeed. I like the title for sure, "The Pilots of the Caribbean," and I'll take a look at it. And in fact, I did follow the links you sent on your PM, so it definitely has potential. May not get round to it for a little while, but it's going to be a good one, I'm sure.
So what I got from that, Landon, is the next Plain Tale will be on that subject.
Sadly not. No, the next Plain Tale is already in the pipe, and
Oh.
it's about two VCs of the Second World War.
Ah.
Hmm.
By the way, the wing commander who flew the gyrocopter was Ken Wallace, and apparently his gyrocopter was called Little Nelly. I don't remember
I mean,
that
if you're
bit.
going to name your gyrocopter, I suppose.
Yeah. Well,
It works.
according to John McElry, yeah, that's what he thinks. But certainly Ken Wallace rings a bell. That sounds like the man. But I'm sure he had more than one gyrocopter.
I mean, doesn't everybody?
Well, if you're Ken Wallace, you do.
Yeah. Is he the one that was like a consultant for the James Bond film?
Well, I have a feeling he actually flew the James Bond fighter. He designed, built, and flew it, I think. I'm going to have to Google it now and see it.
Okay. So while you do that, I'm trying to find an email. That last one we have there, I'm going to save that for the next show because I think that Dana might have some feedback regarding that as well. But I do want to make sure that I read this one because I really chuckled when I read this earlier today. This came in from, let me make sure that it's okay if I mention his name. He didn't say not to. Okay. Raghu Apudurai.
Nailed it.
And that's the way that you pronounce his name, even though he might say, no, that's wrong, Jeff. That's not the way I pronounce my name. But he's wrong. That's the way you pronounce it. Good day, APG crew. No offense meant by what follows. And having listened to numerous episodes of APG Podcast, I apprehend that no offense will be taken. I started listening to APG Podcasts earlier this year and have been sampling the latest and legacy episodes on a basis which corresponds to severe chronic APG-itis. That said, it took me a while to get properly infected. I initially struggled with why 3 patently nice Americans would tolerate a pompous, arrogant, pommy Airbus Git. Is that right? Is that the way you pronounce that, Git?
No, JIT.
JIT, okay. Dang it.
Git.
50%.
Git.
Wrong again.
Don't listen to Nick.
I persevered, and several episodes later, I came to understand why. The Americans weren't just nice or simple. They were acute observers of the human condition. They had worked out that Captain Nick was a rare pommy jit indeed. One who's funny.
Git.
Yeah. Is it Git or Jit?
Git.
Oh, well, why did you tell me it was the other?
Why would I want you to call me a
You
kid?
made me, you played me again. Darn it. Oh, well. Okay. I should have gone with, my initial feeling about how it was pronounced.
Your confidence in your own pronunciation.
Okay, here we go. I persevered.
No, you're not redoing it.
I'm not going to go from the beginning. I'm just going to start from the paragraph I just read.
From the JIT?
Yeah. Well, no. Okay. No, shut up. I persevered, and several episodes later, I came to understand why. The Americans weren't just nice or simple. They were acute observers of the human condition. They had worked out that Captain Nick was a rare pommy Git indeed, one who's funny, knowledgeable, and useful. A unique pom. To be fair, Captain Nick's stint with the RAAF must have improved his grip on humanity and assisted him in acquiring the basics of Airbus systems management. I was sold once I realized that you were all on board with both the Monty Python and Mel Brooks idiom. It's true. It's true. All of this is a long way of saying that I'm glad I persevered. I have not yet listened to an APG podcast from which I have not learned something, anything. Disclosure. I found out about APG via an interview with Captain Nick on the Inspired Pilot podcast. At the end of the interview, Nick disclosed his enthusiasm for IPAs. Imagine my existential disarray when, upon listening to my first APG episode, I discovered amongst your number was a girl who was a doctor, pilot, and an IPA enthusiast. APG-itis does not discriminate.
That's true.
True. A little background. I'm a barrister, equals a trial lawyer in U.S. speak, but have wanted to be a pilot ever since my first flight from KL, and I'm thinking that must be Kuala Lumpur, to Colombo on a BOAC de Havilland Comet 4 in 1963. I belatedly commenced flight training in 2013 at 57 years old, and after a substantial break, achieved the recreational pilot certificate in 2018. I am presently working on the cross-country endorsement. Upon achieving that endorsement, I intend to transition to a GA license and potentially a CPL. I'm 63 years old, and if I'm lucky, will have another 25 years on this planet. Accordingly, my attitude is to approach those 25 years as a new lifetime opportunity.
He said if he's unlucky.
Oh, unlucky. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm 63 years old, and if I'm unlucky, we'll have another 25 years on this planet. Okay.
I think you read it correctly the first time, though, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it was in my head. But anyway, thank you for the excellent resource and community that is APG. The genuine love of aviation, which oozes, or I'd say secretes out of each of you in every episode, reinforces my obsession with flight, albeit tempered by the practical advice, which is a constant theme of the APG podcasts. Thanks again. Here's to many, many more APG episodes, well past 400. Enjoy. Wow, that I just loved that feedback, and when I read that this morning, I thought, oh, I got to read that one today. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Very good indeed.
Yeah, I love the way
appreciate it.
He expressed himself there. Very, very funny.
Being a barrister, he very well should be able to express himself.
You'd think.
I wonder if
right?
he was I wonder if he was, one of those criminal barristers that used to get people put away for and hung and all that sort of stuff.
I don't know.
Oh, we need to find out.
Or hanged.
Hanged.
Hung.
Well hung.
Well, that could be as well.
By the way,
that's different. Yes, sir.
Yes, he did. This lovely old wing commander did indeed do all the flying in the James Bond movie in his gyrocopter, which apparently was called Little Nelly or whatever. Yes, so that's
because I think we were talking about that guy that did the would he go like around the world or something, the Northern Hemisphere in a gyrocopter.
Right. Yes,
and they had in the article they had a picture of the James Bond gyrocopter, and then they had somebody. And it was probably that guy you're talking about, that wing commander. I just don't remember his name from that article, but that's probably the guy.
That is the guy. He had a neat little mustache, and not dissimilar to yours, and a little goatee beard.
Yeah, watch what you're saying there with the little adjective. Okay. That brings us to the end of the show. I achieved my goal. I made Nick snort.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, I think it had more to do with all the beer I drank.
Well, maybe a little bit to do with me. I don't know.
Possibly. Yeah,
come on. Throw me a bone, man. Throw me a bone.
You're definitely the catalyst.
Thank you. Yeah, because it's my or our podcast, I should say. Anyway. With
definitely
that,
yours. I don't want to take
we know who the boss is here.
Yeah,
we do.
I noticed how you guys like take a few steps back. No.
Yeah,
we just kind of contribute. It's not.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't blame us for this.
Exactly.
We are here at Jeff's invitation.
Yeah. Well, I think you need to take ownership. Anyway, that is it for the show. We're past the 3-hour mark, and the time flew by once again. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. being here when we do these live broadcasts, participants in the chat room, and we especially thank our financial supporters. Without that support, I mean, it really gives us motivation to keep going and going and going. And as we mentioned, this is episode 399. Next episode 400. We're not going to do anything special for it, but it is a milestone I would have to accept and acknowledge. And again, if it hadn't been for this wonderful APG community, I would have stopped doing this a long time ago. So thank you, everyone, for listening to the show, watching the videos, and all that stuff. And if you want to learn more about it, if you're new to the show and you're wondering who these knuckleheads are, you can learn about us by heading over to the Airline Pilot Guy website. And you can learn about the community, which is the very best part of everything. And let's see, what else? We have merchandise there. We have a special standalone Plane Tales page for a lot of extra information regarding these wonderful plane tales that Nick does every week for us, and pictures and more in-depth information. So check that out. You can also subscribe as a standalone podcast, the Plane Tales. So all that information's there on the website and more. And we're also on the social medias. Social medias. Yeah.
That's even more formal there. You can head over to twitter.com and find our handle at APG Crew. And definitely a good place to interact with us if you are into brevity, so 280 characters or less. If you're a little more long-winded, head over to facebook.com/airline pilot guy and share away to your heart's content. Hope to see you on the social meds.
Yes. And we're also on Slack. And Hillel. Time. I'm going to let him come over here and make some room beside me. He's going to tell us about Slack. Tell him about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plane Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thanks, Hillel. Now, get out of here. Go back to the bathroom. I'm trying to find a good one to play.
Delayed response.
Something threw me off, and I'll tell you why here in a second.
Must be a long way away.
I wouldn't go in there for a while, Captain.
Okay, thanks. The thing that I just noticed, my cousin is in the Facebook chat room. Craig Nielsen. He's
hey, look at that. That is a suspicious.
He lives out
name.
in Oregon. Hillsdale, I think it's like a suburb of is that right, Hillsdale, of Portland, Oregon. Beautiful place, and he's a beautiful man. And thank you, Craig, for showing up. That's cool. Anyway, that's exciting. Yeah. And let's see, what else was I going to say? I guess nothing. So,
Get off.
Yeah, time to go. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us today for our show. And until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, buddy.
Craig, what's up, man? What else did he say? All I see is thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Just thanks.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
A man of few words.
I see nothing else.
Yeah.
Maybe scrolling.
Yeah, his dad, my uncle Dave, was my dad's older brother, and Hillsborough. That's it, not Hillsdale. Thank you, Lane. That is it. Hey, Mike Kuipers, good to see you. And Gail is inviting herself over for the wine.
To Micah's place, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Micah's place is a good place to hang out.
And drink wine.
And drink wine and eat wonderful food. Mm-hmm. And enjoy great company. And talk to Micah, too.
Well, yes. Goes without saying.
Anyway, thanks everyone for. I know it's kind of late, especially for Nick. What time is it there now, Nick?
1:45 in the
Ooh.
morning.
Yeah, it's a late one. Wow.
That's 2.
It's 2.
Busy
It's
day
2.
tomorrow too.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and then stop the broadcast so we can wrap this thing up.
Too late now, mate. You've ruined my bloody night's sleep. So
I'm sorry.
Well, good,
doesn't
'cause I
make
have
a
a
lot of
request
difference.
before you turn in. So,
Yeah.
after we're done with this. Sorry.
Okay. Well, Dana, enjoy the Omaha layover. Get some good sleep, and we'll see you next week. And all of you, we'll see you next week. So,
Yeah,
bye.
absolutely.
Bye.
Look after yourself, everybody.